Glenn Clark Radio, talking about the sports you do and don't know, both within and surrounding Baltimore. Don't ask him about preseason games, oh no, stuff and things in Griffin Basso. Despite it being on the internet, he can call it what he wants, so Glenn Clark Radio, Glenn Clark Radio, Glenn Clark Radio. Duke sucks.
And good morning. It is a Thursday edition of Glenn Clark Radio. That would make me Glenn. He's Griffin. We got a lot to do over the course of the next couple of hours coming up. Always fun when we catch up with Jahmir Young, Maryland basketball legend. And he just made his NBA debut with the Chicago Bulls last week. We'll talk to him about that. We'll talk to him about the Terps. Xavier Scruggs from ESPN and also from MLB Network Radio on Sirius XM. He was part of their spring training tour when it stopped in Sarasota in happier times. I appreciate that Stan, despite literally being injured in a car accident yesterday, was trying to make it seem like, I don't know, things are pretty good. I said,
well, they got baseball players, yeah.
They do.
They just don't have, I don't know.
He was pushing Tomoyuki Sagano really hard, and that's fine. It's fine. I hope Tomoyuki Sagano is an ace. But we'll head down to. I don't even know if Xavier's still in Florida. I don't know, but we'll talk to him wherever he is. Where in the world is Xavier Scruggs, they say. Also, speaking of Terp legends, Geroy Simon, one of the greatest receivers in Maryland history, he has returned to the Maryland Athletic Department in a role that I still am looking forward to learning about, frankly. Executive Director of Revenue Share Management and General Manager. What does all that mean? He's going to explain it to us, because I know a lot of football programs have GMs, but I also know that he's doing more than just football for Maryland. It's a whole thing. We'll let him tell us more about it in a bit. And also, we're going to chat with our friend Steffi Samaras, Anne Arundel County legend, former All-American at Virginia. She will be joining us to tell us more about an event that is going to help raise some money for the family of Pete Medhurst. So all that coming up on a Thursday edition of the program. Speaking of Anne Arundel County, not great news last night for certain folks in Anne Arundel County, as unfortunately Navy just really never in it. Like, never came to life whatsoever.
Jordan Pinnock got ejected 90 seconds in, and that seemed to... I mean, you can't blame it all on that, but...
Right,
yeah.
but like they just never really seem to be... Every now and then they kind of make a little bit of a move, and you'd be like, all right, maybe this is the... They got the 3 from Lysander at the end of the half, and you're like, okay, maybe that can get them going. Nothing got them going. Just what it was.
They just completely shut down Bonini.
Yeah, it really did. American wins the Patriot League. They're on to the NCAA tournament. And I love Dwayne Simpkins, one of my all-time favorites. Hell of a player at Maryland. Just a great guy as he's gone through his coaching career. He's probably... I don't know why it's taken him this long to get his first head coaching opportunity, but Dwayne Simpkins, you feel really good for him. Very happy for him.
I guess because he spent so much time at like the prep level, and because they showed his during the broadcast.
I know it was Sidwell Friends.
Yeah.
I don't know though, man.
And O'Connell, I think.
He checks every box that you would want. He's incredibly smart. He's affable.
Oh, that's what you're doing. So you're calling for Towson to...
No. Well, I mean, he did actually at one point work under Pat Scarry at Towson.
Okay.
I think he was director of ops there for a minute, like for a sneeze. No, I'm not calling for anyone to lose their job. Patrick and I were like going over the list, like who could even be, like who of the local coaches would even be on like the hot seat? Would there be any coaching changes? And that was sort of what he was saying is like it would be more likely if Tony Skinn, after a solid season at George Mason, were to
go up,
move up, that Dwayne Simpkins would make an awful lot of sense for Mason to try to hire, given that he had just worked there and he knows the area so well.
Does Skinn want to move on from George Mason?
Don't know. I get it. He's his alma
right.
mater. It's a place he cares about. I don't know the answer to that question.
Right.
I don't know Tony Skinn nearly well enough. I've talked to him a couple of times. Seems like a swell fella. But
fella?
Yeah, swella.
A swella?
A swella. I just don't know him well enough to know how desperately he cares about being at George Mason versus, any opportunities above that might come up. Can't tell you. But
right. Well, when the Texas job is available, I guess we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. Bummed for Navy. That's a bummer. And one other local school that goes by the wayside last night is Coppin, who actually had a halftime lead and was right in it. And I watched a good bit of that game. They fall in the quarterfinals of the MEAC tournament to South Carolina State. So, yeah, down to a couple of teams left. Obviously, Maryland will be in. We know that.
For sure?
Yeah, we know that. Morgan plays tonight in the quarterfinals. And it's weird how they stagger the quarterfinals in the MEAC, but it's because they're doing the women's tournament at the exact same time. So Morgan plays in the quarterfinals tonight, and then Mount St. Mary's plays in the first round of the MAC tournament tonight against Marist. So that's it. That's all that's left.
Go Neers, go Bears.
Yes. Don't feel great about their chances, but you never know. For having somebody else in the NCAA tournament this year on the local front. Lots of Ravens news, and nothing like massively impactful. Obviously, no DeAndre Hopkins, no Ronnie Stanley re-signing, but a couple of things that we had talked about that they were going to need to do, they addressed. I am not surprised at all that they chose to bring back Tylan Wallace. It makes a great deal of sense. I'm still not sure that Tylan Wallace should be your fourth. It feels like Tylan Wallace should be the last receiver on the roster who's got a special teams role, and if you need him at receiver, you can put him out there if somebody gets hurt, something like that. But Tylan Wallace is brought back by the Baltimore Ravens at a very low number. I think I saw Jordan Schultz report it was like $2 million maybe.
All right.
So, yeah, by all means, bring back Tylan Wallace. Jake Hummel is the guy that they bring in to replace Chris Board, essentially, and to some extent Malik Harrison. I'm not going to pretend like I know a boatload about Jake Hummel because I'm not a liar. There's just things there's just things that I can't tell you about all that much. Here's what I can tell you about Jake Hummel. Jake Hummel played for 3 seasons with the Los Angeles Rams. He was a primary special teams guy, and he played some linebacker. That fits the mold of the scenario that I talked about where the Ravens are looking for their version. They say, hey, we can just find the next Chris Board. They would say, we've got our Chris Board. Jake Hummel's going to be Chris Board. And we don't have to pay him as much money as we would have had to have paid Chris Board. And when you're trying to, get everything in under a certain number on the salary cap, you sometimes have to make decisions like that. If they're right, then bully and welcome Jake Hummel. And I have no reason to not believe that Jake Hummel can be a solid. I'm not going to sit here and bamboozle you into thinking that I know lots of things about Jake Hummel. I do not.
According to PFF, he had 78 defensive snaps last season, and he started in week 18, and he graded very well, graded 88.5 according to PFF.
Sure.
In his lone start.
He was teammates with Charlie Kohler at Iowa State, so Charlie Kohler was very fired up about Jake Hummel coming to Baltimore. Again, if you want me to, I'm not good. They needed to address a linebacker special teamer, and they got that guy. Is he going to be as impactful as Chris Board was? I have no idea. Couldn't possibly tell you. But if they believe that he can, then it makes sense. We will see if that's what he proves to be. So those are the two moves yesterday for the Ravens, bringing back Tylan Wallace and bringing in Jake Hummel. They still need, obviously, there was the checklist yesterday that we talked about. Interior O-line help. Secondary, for sure. For sure. Those are the two that stand out the most right now, and just in terms of roster construction. And undoubtedly, they're going to draft both interior O-linemen and secondary players. But when I think about what they, at the moment, you would say, hey, if they did nothing else, their top priority would have to be cornerback/safety in the first round of the draft. And I know everybody's enamored with the South Carolina safety, Nick Manworry.
Yeah, I like him.
Well, he's a freak. There's no question about that.
Doesn't feel
he's
like
a freak. He's the fastest kid alive.
Doesn't feel like he's going to be there.
Yeah, after what he did at the Combine, I get it. Although, we do this at the Combine every year where everybody was great. Like, God, they were all amazing.
Well, Will Howard could have been better.
Okay, I'm not sure that was a player that was going to go before the Baltimore Ravens were going to be picking, so I don't think it impacts them in any way.
Oh, so he's still going to be there. All right.
That's a great point. Yeah, you think about that. Maybe he could play safety.
Yeah.
At the moment,
big guy.
You would say the secondary is the thing. Like, if you have one player that you're going to get that's going to be an immediate impact guy, and maybe you can find multiples of those guys. You would really like to hope that the Ravens would get back to that. The Seahawks found, Kobe Bryant and Tariq Woolen both in like the third and fourth round, something like that, and they both became immediate impact. Obviously, after Jared Verse was a first-round pick, but Braden Fisk was not. You would like to get to the place where you're getting back to finding multiple impact players, but counting on that, you're hard-pressed to do. You typically count on one player that you draft to become an immediate impact. Plan on them. Put them immediately near the top of the depth chart. And so if that's what you go into the draft thinking, at the moment, you would need that guy to be in the secondary. The problem with that is you really want the Ravens to find that edge rusher. You don't want them to have such a sizable need in the secondary that it feels like they have to. Not that I want them to have to draft an edge rusher. It's just that I can acknowledge that that guy wasn't available. The guys that were available were the guys that you have at home. It's the thing that everybody got mad at me about on Twitter last year when they were on in a flame about Josh Uche going to the Chiefs. And I'm like, what are you talking about? You have Josh Uche. You need better than Josh Uche. Of course, the Ravens did not get better than Josh Uche, but Josh Uche wasn't good. He couldn't even get on the field for the Kansas City Chiefs. The guys that were out there this year weren't better than the guys that you have, which doesn't mean that I'm not willing to consider. As I keep saying, Leonard Floyd remains interesting to me. He hasn't signed anywhere, right? I'm not missing anything.
No, I don't think so.
I keep checking every. It's a very weirdo behavior. I'm just like, what's going on with Leonard Floyd today?
Sorry, no, yeah, Falcons, Atlanta. That's
no,
right.
Son of a bitch. When did that happen?
It was like sometime in the middle of yesterday where there was,
How did I miss that?
I don't know. It got lost. Obviously Leonard Floyd, the biggest name out there. So,
damn it.
Hard. Yeah, I don't know how you missed it.
Damn it. Well,
probably because we were,
it was $10 million. I don't think the Ravens were doing that.
Yeah, how old is he? He's 32.
Yeah, I don't think they were going there. So, scratch it off the list. So yeah, it's the point. The edge rusher just isn't there. That's better than what you have. It's a different conversation in the secondary where it's less about being better than what you have and more about just you need bodies. You need guys. You need... I'm not saying you don't need an impact player because I think you need a starting caliber corner because every team needs to have 3 starting caliber corners. And maybe the Ravens really do feel like Tre'Davious White is a starting caliber corner. We had this conversation yesterday. But I think they still need one more starting caliber corner. And the safety conversation is the thing that we talked about. It's you want it. Do you need it? I don't know. You want it because you want to be able to say Kyle Hamilton's everything, but they might be comfortable with what they did a year ago. We'll find out. The moral of the story being, those are the interior line. Go draft a guy in the 3rd round, another guy in the 5th round, and another guy in the 6th round. And then you think you have that covered. I do still think they need one veteran offensive lineman, as I said before, that you believe can play multiple positions. Try to think of who those guys. Tony Mall was that guy once upon a time in Baltimore, where you're like, I don't know who this guy is. But the answer was a guy that could play a little bit of guard, a little bit of tackle. A.Q. Shipley, our friend.
Maybe he wants to come back.
I don't think so. Could play a little center, could play a little guard. Couldn't really play tackle, I don't think. But that's the type of, you're looking for that. Just in a veteran, someone who's done it at the NFL level before, so it doesn't have to be a rookie. You're also going to draft someone that you believe can play multiple positions. But you'd like to have a veteran that can do those things. So those are the 3 that stand out to me most now moving forward. Secondary, interior line, and then edge rush. But edge rush to me is kind of like the draft or bust almost at this point. I don't think there's a free agent. Again, I'm not saying I'm opposed. You'd have to tell me who's still out there.
On the O-line.
I don't even know.
Well, yeah, I mean, I was looking at it yesterday.
It's such a...
And I couldn't say any names outside the ones that had played in Baltimore for a minute.
At edge rush?
Oh, Ed Rush.
No,
sorry,
I'm not talking... Yeah, edge is what I'm talking about.
Okay.
I just don't think that the guy... I don't think there's someone in free agency that's still available that you're getting and saying...
Now we're better.
Yeah. And which doesn't mean that you can't just bring in somebody for the sake of bringing in somebody, because you always need depth. But I don't think there's anybody else left in the edge rush department that you're saying that's got to be a priority. I think it's someone you're going to have to draft if you're going to find an impact edge rusher at this point.
Von Miller.
I thought everybody was talking about him going back to the Broncos. I thought that was the word on Von Miller, that maybe the Cowboys were going to be in on that. Von Miller
Preston Smith is a free agent.
What's that?
Preston Smith, Matt Judon.
Yeah, these are guys. They're guys.
Zadarius Smith is a free agent.
They're all guys. And it's not me saying no. It's me saying I'm indifferent.
Raekwon Davis is an interior guy, but yeah.
You need a wrecker. And these guys aren't necessarily wreckers at this point in their careers.
Ooh, Devondre Campbell. Well, I guess he's more of a strip linebacker.
He's more of a linebacker, yeah. Way more of a linebacker. I don't think, believe it or not, I don't think he's going to be...
We can fix him.
Yeah? How'd that work with Deontay Johnson?
Almost.
Yeah. We had a guy quit on the team, so what are we going to do next? Bring in a guy who quit on his team. How about that? Deontay Johnson's still available. How's that pursuit of getting a compensatory pick for Deontay Johnson going? You think that's
just
coming?
wait. Just you wait, okay?
It's true. There's still
someone's about to give him $10 million.
Plenty of time for Deontay Johnson. It's just so objectively hilarious.
Ooh, Josh Uche's out there.
Everybody wanted him at the trade deadline. How dare you not give up draft capital for Josh Uche?
Dante Fowler Jr., Clellan Farrell, still just 28 years old.
In the NFL. I got to be honest.
He's just 28 years old.
I didn't know he was still playing.
37-year-old Brandon Graham coming off a Super Bowl. Did he retire? Did he not retire?
I have no idea.
He's listed on the free agents
couldn't possibly
list.
Tell you. Couldn't possibly tell you. Anyway, moral of the story being, those are the areas of need based on where the Ravens are. They did check off two. I did think they needed another wide receiver. They bring back Tylan Wallace. That qualifies. I still believe they could use something between those things. They might genuinely believe that they have that guy.
Or they feel really good about the draft. Like that's.
Well, they can't. I think they draft someone else as well. I think that's for sure. But if they think that Tez Walker is someone that can be counted on moving forward, he needs to be a factor in this. Like you drafted him. That's a difficult part of this conversation. Is like we write these guys like they drafted him. I don't remember who I was talking to about this recently, but I always say that my only issue with the Ravens' compensatory pick obsession is you're not putting this many rookies on the team. It just isn't happening. It never happens. So you can say, hey, you like to have the swings because then you can put a bunch of guys in camp and pick the ones that are best suited. But whoever I was talking to said, is there an argument that maybe you should be putting that many rookies on the team? That you're giving away these roster spots to back-end guys that are absolutely not difference makers, and you'd be better off holding them for someone to see if they're just not ready yet but could be ready at some point in the future? And I was like, that's an interesting argument, right? Like, that's fascinating. They loved Hez Walker enough to draft him. They didn't have to. He was their guy. And yet then didn't love him enough to play him. And sometimes that's just a scouting miss, right? Sometimes it's as simple as we were wrong. But
they want to be slow, throwing them in there, and because they know they have Bateman and Flowers. And
that was fine right up until Zay Flowers got hurt.
Yeah.
When Zay Flowers got hurt, you needed that guy that you drafted to be ready to contribute to your football team. Not to be Zay Flowers, but to contribute, to be helpful. And they were not prepared to do that. So I because of that, I feel like they could still use one more. But they do still have Anthony Miller, and they do still have some of those other guys that are going to be fighting for roster spots. They have some veterans. They have 4 guys right now that you would say are definitively part of the equation at wide receiver. Hez Walker, to me, would be the 5th guy at the moment, and that's typically what you do is you have 5 wide receivers, with one of them being more of a returner, and that's kind of what Tylan Wallace is. All right, so that's it. That's what we got. Is there anything else from yesterday that stood out? I don't believe any more Orioles got hurt yesterday, so that was nice.
Woo, win. That was a win.
100%.
I don't even know if they did win, but I think. Yeah.
I couldn't tell you, and who would care? Who would care if they did?
Drew would, yeah.
Right. Well, he would care if he bet on it. And I don't think he bets on results. He just bets on overs and unders in spring training. So that's the part that he's concerned about. Today's show brought to you by the print issue of Press Box, which is available for free at your neighborhood Royal Farms, any of the hundreds of locations around town where you find Press Box. You can read it all. PressBoxOnline.com. You see David Rubenstein on the cover. Stan and I sat down with the Orioles owner for a lengthy conversation. Go pick that up right now. That print issue of Press Box available for free.
Hopefully Drew took the over. They lost 13-8, or excuse me, 13-5.
But did anybody get hurt?
No, not that I remember. Not that I remember seeing.
All that matters. All that matters. No one else got hurt.
Kramer got beat up. If if that means anything, though, to anyone.
No.
No.
I mean, I.
You want Kramer to let up 9 runs?
This is the part. Would
let up 4 runs in 4 innings.
In a vacuum, if you said, would you today Dean Kramer is making a spring training start, would you rather him give up no runs or 9 runs? You'd say no runs. But does it matter? Not even a little bit. Because you have no idea what Dean Kramer was trying to do yesterday. You don't. What does that smell?
The little smells like somebody's cooking.
I don't know if it smells like somebody's cooking or if it smelled like somebody's maybe smoking something. Is there a smoker outside the window?
You have a better angle down the.
I don't see anything
down the line here.
It smells like there's like a bonfire somewhere.
Should we go check it out?
Go for a bonfire. Who doesn't enjoy a nice bonfire on a day like today? I don't know how I feel about that. Anyway, yeah.
That has happened before, though, hasn't it? That this exact little scent.
Yeah, and I always just want to make sure it's not like one of our machines.
I feel like it's every time the heat kicks back in or something.
Is that what it is?
Because remember, it was 70 the last 2 days, so now.
Right, yeah, I didn't like that when I woke up this morning.
And now it's a little cooler again. So
I haven't had to put on a pea coat in a few days. I hate this. This sucks. It does suck. I'm not a fan of it. All right, I am a fan of Jahmir Young. I know that much. The former Maryland guard. He just made his NBA debut with the Chicago Bulls. He's going to tell us about that when we come back in. It is a Thursday edition of Glenn Clark Radio.
Driving in Maryland? Did you know an easy pass from DriveEasyMD.com can save you time and money? Of course you did, because you are a thrifty driver. An antenna reads your EasyPass transponder and automatically deducts the toll from your EasyPass account. There, you just saved money with EasyPass, all without slowing or receiving a notice in the mail. Well done, thrifty driver, well done. Get your EasyPass at driveeasymd.com.
Treat yourself and taste the Baltimore tradition that is the legendary Costas Inn. Hey, it's Stan the Fan Charles. For over 50 years, the Costas Inn has been a Baltimore original, dishing out their amazingly scrumptious, fat, award-winning crab cakes and steamed crabs. Every season is crab season at Costas, so make your plans now by calling 410-477-1975 and reserve your taste of heaven. Sit back, crack some crabs, and watch the Ravens chase down another title on Costas' 15 TVs. On Monday nights, Costas offers their half-pound jumbo lump crab cake with 2 sides for under $30, and there are nightly specials Monday through Friday. So head on down to the Costas Inn at 4100 North Point Boulevard or visit them at costasinn.com.
Make the most out of every day in your Toyota RAV4. Available in hybrid or gas-only models. A RAV4 can get you where you want to go in style. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new RAV4s from your local Toyota dealer today.
The latest edition of Press Box is available now. On the cover, Glenn Clark and I sit down for a Q&A with Orioles owner David Rubenstein, discussing what he learned from his first year as owner, his goals both on and off the field, and his involvement in baseball decisions. Also inside, Brooks DeBose profiles new Oriole Tyler O'Neill, and we meet college lacrosse players from around the state. Press Box is available for free at over 500 locations throughout the region, including 60 Royal Farms stores. Or you can read the entire issue online at PressBoxOnline.com, where you can also find great betting advice and the best daily coverage of the O's, Ravens, and Terps.
Need a trophy or award that's as unique as the achievement? Look no further than Crown Trophy. With locations in Owings Mills and Gaithersburg, they specialize in custom trophies, plaques, and medals for any occasion. From sports and academic awards to employee recognition and corporate gifts, visit crowntrophy.com today and let them help you create a lasting memory for your school, team, or business. Crown Trophy is a proud supporter of the Maryland Public Secondary Schools Athletic Association. crowntrophy.com.
One of the things that's definitely wrong with this country is that this dude still has a job somehow, some way. Glenn Clark.
All right, back in here on GCR as we continue along on a Thursday edition of the program. I guess the one other thing we did learn is that Maryland will not be facing Ohio State in the first round or the quarterfinals of the Big Ten tournament, as Ohio State kind of stunningly loses to Iowa. I was reading that maybe Frank McCaffrey was on the hot seat a little bit at Iowa. It seems like that's the type of place where you just get to coach for, like you're not actually
as
going to,
as long as you don't embarrass the institution.
like you're not going to win anything, and it's Iowa basketball. Like they got to have moments where they felt like they mattered with Luka Garza, and like you could say, hey, it was disappointing. Then like they weren't. They were not win. It's Iowa. You're not winning something there. But I get it. Like they had Garza, they had Keegan Murray, they had really good teams or really good players. And they didn't really have much to show for it in the tournament. But it's Iowa. What is the expectation level? Did like the women's team getting good like ruin that for the men's team? Like now we think that you're supposed to find a way to get to the Final Four. Like that, it's just not realistic. So I was a little surprised by that. Like people were talking about, oh, this is a big win for Fran McCaffrey. He was potentially on the hot seat. I was like, what? Really? What? Who are they gonna hire? Who's like, I tell you what place I need to be. I gotta be at Iowa basketball. It was very strange to me. But I say all that to say that Ohio State loses to Iowa. So Ohio State certainly not safe in the NCAA tournament. And Iowa will play Illinois this evening. The winner of that gets Maryland tomorrow night in the Big Ten quarterfinals. Speaking of Maryland basketball, had to do this a little bit earlier because of his schedule. He's on a two-way contract with the Bulls, so he's playing a little bit in the G League and a little bit in the NBA. He is Jahmir Young, and we had the opportunity to catch up with him right here on GCR. Well, it's always a pleasure to be joined by our next guest here on GCR. We loved the years that he spent here in College Park, and we are so happy for him as he's now on a two-way deal with the Chicago Bulls, and last week he got to make his NBA debut. He is the great Jahmir Young, and he's back with us now here on GCR. Jahmir, it's Glenn back in Baltimore. It's always great to catch up with you, man. Thank you for taking the time for us, and congratulations.
No, I appreciate it, man. And, thanks for having me. Glad to be here. Glad to be able to talk to you again. So thanks
Dude,
for having
it's
me.
always good to talk to you. I know your dreams, your goals are bigger than getting some minutes in one NBA game. I know that's true. But everything that you've put in to this moment and the stops you made along the way, right? What did it mean to you to find out you were signing that deal and to get on the floor in an NBA game and know that you've done that? Box one is checked.
Yeah, it's just more motivation. It's exciting, from my story, my journey, just, leading up to this point. Just being able to see my family proud of me as well, it just means a lot, from where I've been at, and, the growth that I've made. So for me, it's just more motivation, to just keep going and trying to check off that next check mark,
No doubt. Did you ever doubt it, Jahmir? Did you ever just have the, I don't know if they're gonna let, because you're not the biggest guy in the world. Did you ever have any doubts, or did you always have such confidence in yourself that no matter how hard the road was going to be, you were going to be able to get there?
Yeah, early on, just doubting myself, just going through those stages, it's tough. But, for me, I love the game. And, deep down, I've always had confidence in myself, and I've thought that, I'm going to find a way. God's going to make a way for me. It might not be on my timing, but I just have to be patient and wait on my turn. So for me, it's just believing in God and believing in the work that I put in.
So for the first, I know the first one didn't go your guys' way. It was kind of like a mop-up spot. Do you save anything from that, or do you you don't want to do that because again you want to use it as motivation to get there back? Do you save your shoes or the jersey or anything like that from the first game?
No, I didn't. But I definitely remember what shoes I had on, and what who we were playing, the time that I got in. So. It's something I'll never forget, but, it's just still just use it as motivation.
What does it mean to you that the Bulls wanted you, Jahmir? I know, again, just whatever team it was going to be, you were going to be excited about it. But this was them seeing you, seeing what you were doing, recognizing it, and saying, we want that guy to be part of what we're doing. What did that part of that mean to you?
It felt good. Just knowing that somebody, sees what I'm doing. We've played when I was with Grand Rapids. We played Windy City a couple of times. We played, so I'm familiar with those guys, and it was more just me just knowing that the work is working. Just knowing that.
I appreciate that.
Whatever I'm doing, I need to keep doing because the work is going to pay off. And, for them to just give me an opportunity, it was just a blessing. It was just another sign for me to just keep going.
Jahmir Young is with us here on GCR. He's back with the Windy City Bulls. Jahmir, if you could, the 2 years that you spent at Maryland, and we talked about how we all know last year didn't go the way you wanted it to go from a team standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
But the time that you spent coming back home, how critical do you feel like it was for you in getting to this point where you can become an NBA player?
Oh, it was very important. From playing at a mid-major for 3 years, it was time for me to bet on myself and try to go into the lights and see if I could perform under that platform, in front of the crowd, in front of my family and friends. So for me, that was a big jump that I had to do in order to get to this point. And I feel like I took full advantage of that.
The other cool thing about it being the Bulls, did you know Jalen Smith at all? Had you had a conversation with him at all before? Okay. What was it like?
Jalen Smith and Kevin Huerter.
Right. So it's there's this Maryland thing that's happening with the Bulls, right? what was it like kind of hooking up with those guys and the fact that it worked out that way, that there's this whole Maryland connection now with the Bulls?
Yeah, so me and Sticks, we played for the same AAU program with Takeover. He was a year above me, of course, but we would practice together sometimes. We would scrimmage each other. So me and Sticks go way back to about 16U, 17U. So it was good to see Sticks again. Then I've seen him, working out at Maryland. We also have the same trainer with Darren McClinton. So I see him often. I see him often in the gym. And then Herder, we had runs in College Park last summer. So it was good to see those guys again. And the Bulls, they must have a thing for Terps. No, I'm playing.
Right. I don't know what the connection is, man, but like there's this whole. I guess now Maryland fans are gonna have to have a new favorite NBA team moving forward. The way that they've been collecting you guys, it's been really cool. Jahmir, obviously we got to talk about the Terps, right? Wow. Let me start with Juju, because you know everything that he's been through the last couple of years, and it's been tough for him at times. And he's admitted like the frustration in the last couple of years. What does it mean to you to see him put everything together the way that he has this year to finish his collegiate story with this really special season?
Yeah, it means, like, just thinking about it means a lot and tells you a lot about his character. It's easy for guys nowadays to jump in a portal, go play elsewhere, whether that's for money or wherever the case may be. But for Juju, just seeing his growth, his development over the years, playing for, multiple coaches, for him to be able to, stay grounded, stay motivated, and now him being the leader of this, really good Terps team, it means a lot. It shows a lot about him and who he is as a person.
I mean, it's one of my favorite stories ever, right? It's just so cool, and I just like that guy so much that it's special to see. Did you get to know any of the other guys, like, at all? Did you have any off-season workouts with them? Like, did you have any idea of like how good this group was going to be able to be together?
Yeah, they have a lot of talented guys. They have a lot of, veteran guys as well, guys who played multiple games in college. So I went to one practice before the season started while I had some time at home, and just seeing the way they competed against each other, and how seriously they took every possession. They didn't take any possessions off. And they're a defensive-minded group. So it's a hungry team, a well-put-together team. So I knew they were going to be special from the start.
I mean, it's incredible to see what they're doing right now. I know you've got your own basketball to worry about, and you're playing most nights. So I know you don't have – but, like, do you start to buy into the idea that, like, this team really can do something incredible in March?
Yeah, for sure. Just keeping up with them on social media. They keep jumping up in the rankings. They keep going on, win streaks, and, their offense is clicking. Everybody's contributing as well. So the ball is spreading around. Everybody's getting love. So, and the chemistry seems to be on, the best level. So I'm not surprised at all.
It was funny. I remember talking to Jacoby before the season, and he said that, like, part of the reason why he wanted to be at Maryland was because of you. And seeing what you were able to do playing for Kevin Willard. And we know Maryland's got this like legacy of like point guards, right? Like with Cowan and Trimble and those guys. Is Maryland now like officially point guard U? Is that what we call it moving forward?
I think so.
Is there something about it? Like why do point guards thrive so much at Maryland?
It's a ton of credit to the crowd, the atmosphere, but it's big. Kudos to Kevin Willard. I mean, what he's put together, how he runs his offense, and gives his players confidence to go out there and play their game.
I mean, I think it's awesome to see. Can you? And I know we got to let you go here in a minute, Jahmir, but like, I don't think I'd noticed before this year how good Maryland teams seem to be out of timeouts under Kevin Willard. Like, This year, it's been crazy. I feel like every timeout, the ATO play has turned into points. Like, I don't know. I don't have the math in front of me. But what is it about Kevin Willard teams coming out of timeouts that makes them so good?
So it starts in practice. You know, he emphasizes the importance of execution at a timeouts, how every possession matters. So he has all those guys locked in from jump ball to the final buzzer. So we drill it in practice. We used to drill it in practice. I'm sure he still does it now. And yeah, so I'm sure that's what it is.
That's cool. All right, so the important question, we know you're a Maryland guy at heart, and of course a little bit of time down in Charlotte. Have you gotten into like the deep dish pizza scene since you've been out in the Midwest yet?
No, I haven't. I have not.
Man,
unfortunately.
Have you ever had it? Like it'll blow your mind because you're looking at it like, what is this? Is this like a casserole?
Yeah.
And then you realize it's actually delicious. Like it's really good.
No, I haven't. I haven't yet. Just being on the two-way contract, I've been so busy flying everywhere.
Yeah, you haven't had a lot of time.
Back and
I
forth,
get that.
But
I understand.
It's definitely on my bucket list.
Jahmir, we're just so happy for you, dude. Seriously, we are so grateful for the time that we got to watch. And I'm telling you, we need to get you on the full contract so that we can have you come play a game here in D.C. because my kids are bugging me about coming to watch you play. They want to make sure that happens. Congratulations, man. Seriously. It's awesome to see you thrive. Thank you.
Tell them I said hello, too.
Oh, my God. You're going to make their day. Jahmir, thank you, dude. Thank you for hopping on. It's Jahmir Young, obviously a Maryland basketball legend now. With the Bulls, happy for him. And hopefully he'll be getting more opportunities here in the coming weeks and months. Speaking of the Terps, and speaking of college basketball in particular, Nick Kelly, good guy Nick Kelly, he just got in. We're doing it again. Bracket contest, charity bracket contest. I would actually prefer that you sent the money to Griffin, but I'm going to just send it to Griffin. I'd like to – it's a church and state thing that I got to deal with.
You got to have something over me? Is that what
No, it's more like – it's very hard. I want you to pay the winner. I'll pay the charity.
Gotcha.
I just want to have it all – or maybe I just send it all to you and then you send – I don't know. We'll figure it out. But I want to keep it – I have like in my account like automatic payments that come out of there.
Gotcha.
And I don't want the automatic payments to come out of money that is not mine. Does that make sense?
Fine.
But send it to me. Glenn Clark on Venmo, Glenn Clark Radio on Glenn Clark Radio on Cash App, Glenn Clark 180 on PayPal. $20. $20. Half of the winner have to show your soft side and the incredible work that they do for animals in our community. Ideally, that means we're sending them $250, and the $250 goes to the winner if we can get. If we can get 25 people to sign up, if we can get 50 people to sign up, then $500 to the winner, $500 to helping up, show your soft side. We do helping up for what we do around the holidays. We're doing show your soft side for this one. So just get in. Go ahead, send it to me right now, and we'll get you the link. And then when the brackets go live on Sunday night, you can go ahead and get registered. We do it every year. Every year I end up yelling and screaming and flipping out and acting like a psychopath. Please don't make me do that. I'm going to start seeking you out. I'm going to go back and look at who was in last year. Brian Powell tell me, and then I'll start reaching out to you so that we can try to close this gap quickly. But just go ahead and do it so I don't have to do that. Thank you to Nick. Good guy Nick Kelly getting in. Appreciate you. I'd like to get everybody else signed up and registered for our bracket contest, and maybe we raise $500 for Show Your Soft Side. And the amazing work that they do, I would greatly appreciate that. Stan and Luke are still down in Sarasota. Obviously, they got a little bit derailed by a car accident this week, but they're still going to –
literally, yeah.
Yes, they're still going to have some more coverage for you. Facebook.com/PressBoxSports and PressBoxOnline.com. It's all brought to you by Live Casino and Hotel, as well as Easy Pass, the Costas Inn, and HelpMyGamblingProblem.org. Stan and Luke down in Sarasota. When we come back in, there's an event that's going to be happening soon to benefit the family of our friend Pete Medhurst, and we want to tell you a little bit more about that. And Anne Arundel County legend Steffi Samaras will be joining us next. This is Glenn Clark Radio.
COVID-19 and flu viruses are circulating in Maryland. But don't worry, protection is within arm's reach. Protect your health with this year's COVID-19 and flu shots. It's safe and convenient to get them both at the same time. Flex your protection. For more information, visit health.maryland.gov/vaccines.
This message paid for by the Maryland Department of Health.
Whether your focus is luxury and comfort, convenience and technologically advanced connectivity, or sporty performance and aggressive styling, we've got the perfect Highlander for you. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Highlanders from your local Toyota dealer today.
March is a slam dunk at Live Casino. Catch all the basketball action and more at Sports and Social. Enter our $80,000 Dolce & Gabbana giveaway on March 28th. And catch the Baltimore baseball jersey giveaway March 31st. Take your shot at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland. At Arundel Mills. Must be 21. Please play responsibly. For help, visit mdgamblinghelp.org or call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
The latest edition of Press Box is available now. On the cover, Glenn Clark and I sit down for a Q&A with Orioles owner David Rubenstein, discussing what he learned from his first year as owner, his goals both on and off the field, and his involvement in baseball decisions. Also inside, Brooks DeBose profiles new Oriole Tyler O'Neill, and we meet college lacrosse players from around the state. Press Box is available for free at over 500 locations throughout the region, including 60 Royal Farm stores. Or you can read the entire issue online at PressBoxOnline.com, where you can also find great betting advice and the best daily coverage of the O's, Ravens, and Terps.
Contrary to what some people believe, I actually like this guy when he sleeps. Glenn Clark, talking sports.
All right, back in here on GCRs, continue along on a Thursday edition of the program. Man, I have so much stuff going on at the moment. Someone I know, apparently, there's a podcast that just came out about Joe Flacco called Elite. I don't know the people involved. They did reach out to me on Blue Sky, and I've been trying to get back and forth. But apparently I am involved in this podcast. I just was not aware of it. But as AI told us last week, this is my legacy, right? My legacy is I will forever be attached to Joe Flacco because, God bless. There are worse things to be attached to. I have not had a chance to listen to it yet. I don't know. I don't want to give it the big push until, like.
You're giving it an A push, though.
Well, somebody just messaged me, a guy named
Elite.
Well, and I feel bad because one of the guys involved has reached out to me, and I just haven't had a chance. I'll happily talk about it when I have a moment. But this week, between free agency and Oriole stuff and college basketball, and then like maybe my busiest lacrosse week of the year, all of that sort of hitting at once, I was realizing this Sunday will be the first day off I've had since the holidays for sure.
Huh.
Which is neat. We don't know. We talked about. We don't know what we're doing for St. Patrick's Day.
Gotcha.
They want to go to the trampoline.
If I have someone that needs to do something that day.
What?
If I have something that needs someone to do, just 15 minutes, but.
Wait. Excuse me.
Yeah. So you're saying you want Sunday off though?
No, I mean if it's for the show, we'll do something for the show.
Okay.
I just at this point think that like if somebody called me and said, "Would you want to come call?"
Oh, that kind of thing. Yeah.
I feel like I would probably say no. It depends on what the job is. Like if somebody needs me to call the Big Ten championship game, I think I'll make myself available.
Ian Eagle and
right.
Kevin Harlan are down for the count.
Just they all. Everybody got
Glenn,
malaria.
we need you.
The measles outbreak has really hurt us. If it's that, okay. Like, I think I could do that. I used to do a Selection Sunday show every year.
But what if it's like Iowa versus Northwestern in the Big Ten Championship?
Yeah.
Are you out then?
Yeah, I'm totally out.
Okay.
Who would want to do that?
That's what I'm saying, yeah. So I'm glad I checked.
I used to every year do a Selection Sunday. Go ahead and call yeah, please. I used to do a Selection Sunday radio show on the old radio station. And it would be great because we would have, like, Maryland would have a player call in. And, if one of the local schools was in Morgan, somebody like that, they'd have a player call in, and we'd do the whole deal. And then I realized at one point that I was Mike Francesa. I realized that if I did the Selection Sunday show that year,
it's not a bad thing, is it?
I would just be wildly unqualified to discuss the teams involved. Like, I'd be doing it.
Isn't everyone?
Yes. I mean, except Patrick. Like, there are, certainly Charles Barkley and Kenny Smith are not qualified to talk about these teams, and yet they keep trotting them out there. I just couldn't do that. I couldn't continue to do the bit where I pretended like I knew anything about these teams. So somebody asked me recently, like, would you bring that back? Would you bring back the Selection Sunday show? And I said, there's not a chance in hell. No way. He said, why not? I'm like, because I don't know. I'm foaming out of my mouth. I would be Francesa. And you got to wait. We don't play it until next week. That's the way that it works. There's a really great event coming up down in Annapolis that a couple of friends of mine are involved with, and you guys know how much Pete Medhurst meant to me, and I've talked about it over and over again. One of the most special people I have ever known. One of the people who is involved with this event is another friend of mine, and she is a legend down in Anne Arundel County, former All-American, and someone who means a lot to the sport. She is Steffi Samaras, and she is with us today here on GCR. Steffi, what's going on? How are you?
Well, good morning, Glenn. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
I don't even know, I know you're director at the St. James. You've got a lot of hats, Steffi, so I never know exactly how to introduce you when we have something like this. So I'm just going to go with Queen of all things lacrosse, if that works for you.
Oh, yes, thank you. I appreciate that introduction, but I would say that my mom is probably the queen, or my sister is probably the queen. I'll take princess. I'll take princess.
Okay, all right, we can do princess of all things lacrosse.
Yeah. Take princess.
I think people in our neck of the woods obviously know Pete from Navy and know Pete from what he did with the Ravens and WBAL in the last few years. But I wonder if you could explain, for those that don't live in Anne Arundel County, why Pete was so much even more special to that community specifically.
Oh, gosh. Pete probably saw me play like a T-ball game when I was 5 years old, and I don't even know it. Along with Bill Wagner, he was the heart and soul of all sports in Anne Arundel County. And he knew everybody. He knew every sport. I think that's the big thing that we sometimes forget about Pete. I do specifically because I'm in my sort of like lacrosse silo. But Pete knew baseball, and he knew basketball, and he knew football, and he knew soccer, and he knew who won the wrestling state championship in 1996, and he knew who won all of these different things. And to this, small little sports community in Anne Arundel County, he knew all of us, which meant we had a voice and we had a purpose, and he helped us get better. I mean, he talks about so many athletes that he had a major influence in their life. I was one of them collegiately, and then got to work with him later in my life, which I'm so happy that I got to do some lacrosse stuff with him because one of the things that you and I've always joked about is that you can start a conversation with Pete, and 5 minutes later, the conversation has gone down so many different rabbit holes and it's so amazing. But his engagement with kids in the sports world was just so amazing.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. The number of people, he also, any opportunity he had to find a reason to talk about someone he knew. This is one of the things that I love most about Pete, right? Is that he'd be talking about a subject and it would remind him of some kid he knew from Broadneck somewhere, and he would just bring it in utter non sequitur. We'd be doing one, to your point, one of these NCL games, and suddenly he'd bring it up, and it would just be like, wow, I don't know how that just happened. I have no idea where that just came from, but that was the beauty of working with Pete, man. And like,
yeah, Anne Arundel County had like a full pipeline to every major network
no
that he
question,
was involved with.
no question,
no
doubt.
Which was amazing. You know, you think about the Arundel baseball players and the Severna Park baseball players, the Floyds that came out of Severna Park, and then you think about the lacrosse St. Mary's kids and the Annapolis kids and the Severn kids and South River, you know, basketball-wise, you've got Old Mill girls. I mean, he knew more about the Old Mill girls that I played against in the 90s than I knew about them, the Ciccarelli sisters.
That's so wild. That is so wild. So tell me about Thursday, April 3rd. Tell me all about this event and what we're doing to try to lift up Pete Medhurst's family.
This is really an event, sports, you know, generalized at the Naval Academy, their new Flugel Center for alumni. And we're really lucky, you know, Bill Wagner and Keith Mills are going to be there to really just have like an evening dedicated to talking sports and honoring Pete and celebrating his life.
So what, all of the proceeds from this event are going directly to Pete's family, correct?
Yes, every bit of the proceeds are going directly to Pete's immediate family. I'm really lucky that the Maryland sports guy, Brian Powell, has been able to take the lead on organizing this. People like you and me and Bill and Keith have been helping him, but really he is the person behind this entire process, and we get to frankly just show up and celebrate Pete. And Brian's really put in the blood, sweat, and tears for Pete because he knew how important he was to our community.
There's no question about that. For those that don't know, Pete survived by not only his wife, but 3 kids, including a daughter who's still in high school, who's a heck of a softball player, and their needs are, you know, significant. You can't, there's no way of quantifying it. So we just want to continue to lift them up. And tickets for the event are $100. And right now, the best way to go about getting your tickets is just to reach out to Brian Powell. BG Powell with 3 L's at AOL.com. You can go ahead and send him money on Venmo, Brian-Powell-7, the number 7, Brian Powell 7, but dashes between all of it, on Venmo. But if you just want to have, you know, if questions about the event, you want to donate something, you can't make it, but want to get involved, just reach out to Brian, BG Powell with 3 L's at AOL.com. And to your point, this is a sort of I think low key is the way of describing it. There will be like the Q&A, but it's a fairly informal just night to get together and talk about Pete and talk sports.
Exactly, especially Navy sports, which is probably, I can't say that I know what his number one love was, but if there was his number one love with regards to what he did, I think the Naval Academy is probably pretty high up on that list.
I have changed my mind like 15 times in conversations with people about what I think Pete cared about the most. I'd be like, I don't know, man.
Yeah.
Like, he cared about complaining about officiating the most, I think, right? Like, then I'd be like, I don't know. I think he really cared about softball the most in recent years. Like, then I'll be like, oh, no, it's still Navy. That's still his first love. And then somebody will remind me about harness racing, and I'll be like, damn it, I don't know. It could be any of these. And
I don't think we could ever put down on a piece of paper all the things that he loved.
Oh my God! Or just telling me about the newest items they had available at Dunkin' Donuts, for example.
That's absolutely hysterical, Glenn.
Oh God, he loved doing that too. He really did. Steffi, it's a wonderful thing, and I know all of us that care about Pete are going to feel that obligation and not obligation, responsibility to continue telling people about how special Pete was and how much he meant to all of us in the coming years. So I really appreciate that you've partnered with our buddy Brian Powell to make this happen.
Yeah, it's going to be a really fun night. It's going to be probably a sad night, but hopefully the sad tears get some laughter in there, because we all know that if there's one thing that Pete did, he made us laugh.
Oh, did he ever? There's no question about that.
Specifically when he was yelling at officials.
He did love it. He did. And he knew the rules better than they did most of the time. I just got to be honest. Sometimes I'll question an official, and the first thing I say back is like, you know what? They got a better view than I do. Like, I'm not. I take it back. Well, who am I to question? Pete Medhurst, he knew better. He was going to go teach them afterwards. He was going to go
100% agree.
No. Steffi, love you. Appreciate you. Look forward
Love
to
you
seeing
too.
you. And we'll be talking lacrosse next time you and I get together. Thanks for hopping on this morning.
Awesome. Thank you, Glenn. Bye-bye.
Steffi Samaras, legend out of Anne Arundel County, and All-American herself. Appreciate her taking the time for us. And, again, the details for this event, April 3rd is the date at the Flugel Alumni Center, 301 King George Street in Annapolis. Keith Mills, Bill Wagner, the two people that certainly know Anne Arundel County sports the most outside of the late Pete Medhurst. They'll be there and hosting a little bit of a Q&A and just a great night to celebrate Pete Medhurst and to lift up his family. So get in touch with our guy, Brian Powell. BG Powell with 3 L's, bgpowell@aol.com. You can also hit him up on PayPal. That's the way to get him there. Or on Venmo, Brian Powell 7 with 2 L's. He's got to do something about that. Brian, what are you doing? Making it more confusing for everybody. And we'll share out the details one more time on our Twitter account at Glenn Clark Radio. Into the 11 a.m. hour here on GCR. It is a Thursday edition of the program. Still to come today. Looking forward to a conversation with Geroy Simon, Maryland football legend, who is back in a role as general manager for Maryland Athletics. But before we do any of that, this man was in Sarasota last week as part of SiriusXM MLB Network Radio Spring Training Tour. He was with the Orioles in happier times before things started to kind of go crazy a little bit the last couple of weeks. Joining us once again, he is Mr. Xavier Scruggs, and he is with us here on GCR. Xavier, it's Glenn in Baltimore. It's always good to catch up with you, man. Thank you for taking a couple of minutes for us this morning.
Hey, good morning. Thank you for having me. Let's get into it with these Orioles.
Man, the day you guys were there was like the happiest day of spring training, right? Like we didn't know anything about Grayson Rodriguez. It was just about the celebration of Felix Bautista being back. It felt like it was a rock concert that day. I still think that there is reason for optimism about Felix Bautista specifically, so I want to start with the positive before we get to some of the more negative things. How much of a difference can it make for this team? I know the results have been a little bit iffy, but I'm not really worried about the results in spring training. The velocities look good. If Felix Bautista can get back to being Felix Bautista early in this season, how much of a difference does that alone make for the Baltimore Orioles?
Yeah, honestly, I think it's huge just because not only do you get, one of the game's best arms from a bullpen standpoint, but you also create more of that depth in the bullpen itself. And I think, you take pressure off of certain guys, whether that be Sir Anthony Dominguez, Keegan Aiken, Yanir Cano. I think that's huge. And it allows for roles to be established early on in the year. I think once the bullpen, and don't forget, like early on in the year, like guys are not going that deep into games either. So the bullpen, it weighs heavily on those guys for them to have those roles. And not to mention just having a lights out guy in the back end, right? Like that changes the course of at bats for guys. The strategy against him becomes so much more into play, and it makes things easier as far as decisions go, for your manager.
I know that a little bit is a bummer because Andrew Kittredge is hurt, and so that takes some of the depth away. But to the point, if they purposely, if they get him back, and I don't know how long it's going to be. It looks like it could be a little bit. There is a chance that this could be a fairly deep if everything works out, this looks like it could be one of the deeper bullpens in the major leagues, right?
Yeah, well, when you think about the arms and the stuff itself, there's no shortage of it. And I think that's part of making the job hard for opposing offenses and bringing in arms that have had the pedigree, experience. I like the aspect that there's a lot of experience with this bullpen. And we know how tough the AL East is, right? Like the matchups are going to be important when it comes to these guys. So if Kittredge comes back at a certain point and it's not too long, you're talking about a team that can have one of the more dominating bullpens in baseball.
All right. So now the rotation, and Xavier, as you would imagine, there's some angst in Baltimore based on Grayson Rodriguez having to be shut down for a little bit and dealing with the inflammation that he's dealing with in his elbow. At the moment, we have no reason to believe that it's UCL, that it's Tommy John, but whenever we hear elbows with pitchers, you would imagine it just gets very concerning for everybody.
Yeah.
This rotation was a question mark before the Grayson Rodriguez injury. They lost Corbin Burns, and they didn't really replace him. They brought in Sagano and Morton, who have had good springs and are certainly going to be in the rotation, but I don't think we know at all what it is that you're getting. How concerned would you be about this Orioles rotation, and is it time for them to maybe get aggressive in pursuing trade help to try to get this rotation to a place where they have a better chance of competing to win a World Series?
Well, to answer your first question, I was already concerned before the season actually started.
Yeah.
And not to the point to where you didn't know what they had. I think it was more this idea that if you have a window in which you're hoping to win the World Series, right? Like, we're not just hoping that the Orioles get to the postseason. Like, you feel like you can go deep and win a World Series. You have to have two starters at the top that are upper echelon. And Grayson Rodriguez has shown signs of that, but taking away a Corbin Burns doesn't help you in any sense. Like, you have to find some way to replace that in order to duplicate what you did last year. And they weren't able to do that over the offseason. So that was my concern from the beginning. Yes, you probably created some depth in your starting rotation, but the best teams have the upper echelon type arms, and we can look in our own division and see what the Yankees did. You can see what the Blue Jays, even going after an older Max Scherzer. The teams, even the Rays, who may be considered the last place team in this division, like, arms is where they're ahead of most teams. So that to me is where the concern was. And yes, I think you have to start looking at open trade opportunities, especially with what you have as far as value in the farm system. There are already now prospects that may not be starters in your opening day lineup that you have the opportunity to use, and you've had it for a while. So why not use this as an opportunity while you're in the window specifically to go get upper echelon arms?
Let me cover a couple of things that you just said there. Xavier Scruggs is with us here on GCR. First would be, it sounds like you feel that way even if the news is good on Grayson Rodriguez, even if he comes out of this shutdown and he feels fine and he can start ramping back up and could be back, late April, early May, something like that. You would still say you think they need to be aggressive anyway, even if Grayson Rodriguez is back in the picture fairly quickly.
Yeah, because I feel like, and I'm sure Orioles supporters feel the same way, like, this team is too good, but also a lot of it to me is this idea of the postseason, right? Like, if you truly believe you have a team that's able to get to the postseason, you need a solid 1-2, and we've seen it throughout the course of last year's postseason, except for maybe the Dodgers, who had, like, so much pitching that they're able to use a bullpen day. But you have to have the guys a 1-2 punch. And right now, if you look at the rotation, as a former player, I'm not scared or concerned about any of these starting pitchers. Which one is going to dominate any of the offenses in the AL East?
Right.
Which one is going to dominate any of the offenses in the AL West? Maybe the Central a little bit, but you have to have domination at some point.
So I add to that. And look, I don't know how much you know about Kobe Mayo specifically, Xavier, but someone who has been thought of.
A lot.
They obviously they paid over slot for him to get him originally. All he's done is produce at every level. He looks like a legit middle of the order bat for years to come. As you brought up, he seems like he's major league ready right now, but there's just not a place for him. Like, he's almost certainly not going to be on the roster to start the season in Baltimore, despite the fact that he feels major league ready. My friend Keith Law from The Athletic said, if what the Padres wanted for Dylan Cease was Kobe Mayo, I'd make that trade. And to me, it's like, how do you do that? How do you trade, a prospect that appears to be so legit for 1 year of any pitcher at all? But his argument is, well, this is your window is now. Like, you need to capitalize on the now. Is that, like, would you be willing to pay a price that heavy for a rental pitcher, or is that too rich?
I think one thing is, especially after having conversations with front office officials on many different teams, one of the reasons why you invest in your farm system and invest in the resources to create development is to bring value out of those players, right? And to understand when you have a window, sometimes you may have to overextend to be able to create that window and make it bigger, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I think the opportunity to go get a guy like Dylan Cease, you have to at least consider that because of the loss of what you have. Like, not only the value of what your development created, but also now you have to look at the losses too. So and maybe that takes time, right? Maybe I have to see if Grayson Rodriguez ends up being a really drawn out thing. That may be something to where I evaluate it and then make the decision a little bit later in the middle of the season. I don't know, but one of the reasons why you have great development is to be able to use those when you see fit. And to me, this seems like an optimal time. And not just Kobe Mayo. I'm looking at Heston Kjerstad as well. Yep. Teams value him as a great middle of the order bat. He may not have produced the way that you want to with the Orioles, but part of that is because he hasn't played every day. So there's teams that consider him that same type of bat as well.
You bring that up, and I think that we are all feeling that there's a frustration, Xavier, in Baltimore, that a year ago, a guy like Connor Norby, for example, who we had talked about as a prospect for years, but just got to a place where he kind of expired as a prospect, and the Orioles ultimately just traded him for Trevor Rogers. And look, the Trevor Rogers thing has been a disaster. Maybe he could still end up being helpful at some point when he returns this year, but it's not good. But the argument was basically just, well, you weren't doing anything with Connor Norby. Well, how do you let a prospect like that expire to the point where he doesn't have any value? And I think when you bring up Heston Kjerstad, that's sort of the weird feelings that we have in Baltimore. Like, are we watching this again in front of our own eyes where a prospect loses value without either becoming that guy for you or as a trade chip? The flip side argument that I've heard from some people is when you're trying to win, you want to have depth. Like, you want to know that you have guys that are available to you at AAA that you can turn to if you need 50 games from them. And that the argument would be like, say, the Yankees don't have that if they have position players get hurt. How do you measure the value of a Heston Kjerstad, a Kobe Mayo being a depth piece versus what maybe they're not doing for you as a potential trade chip or everyday player?
Yeah, and this may not be the most attractive answer, but I have to look at last year's production, right, and kind of weigh from a totality standpoint. Last year, the starting pitching did a really good job as far as, even guys that got hurt and you're managing what the starting pitching was able to do. But think about toward the end of the season, like the offense really dropped off. Now I look at, in order for us to kind of duplicate what that season looked like last year, either my pitching staff has to be similar, it has to be better, because think about it, your offense is not the same without an Anthony Santander. I understand you bring in Tyler O'Neill and hope to get a lot of that power production back, but I don't want to put more pressure on my offense to perform because I'm missing two starters that really affected my team last year in a positive way.
Right.
So when I look at the value of those prospects, I'm looking at being able to use them to help supplement what I lost. And you're not going to get any more power. You're not going to get any more offense, but you can get more pitching and better pitching at the moment to help fulfill that.
As constructed, Xavier, if they don't make a significant pitching acquisition, in fairness, recognizing what's going on with the Yankees and their pitching injuries, can this team win the American League East as constructed? Can they compete to go to a World Series, or are they still too far away from that because of the pitching?
I still think they can compete. I don't know if they win the division. I definitely think they can compete for a playoff spot and win and still get themselves to a World Series. I think a lot of that answer to me depends on what the deal is with Grayson Rodriguez. Yeah. How long is he going to be ultimately out for? If I don't have Grayson Rodriguez for most of the season, it's hard for me to say that this team can win the AL East. And I think that's I think that's pretty commonly understood from most Orioles supporters. One thing I will tell you is this is still an extremely talented team, and so I'm not going to put anything past them, and I still expect them to be able to grind it out because I understand who's at the helm, and I understand the type of personalities that they have in that clubhouse, and they're still going to demand excellence from their own players that are on the field.
It still feels to me like so much of the story of what this team is capable of doing comes down to like two guys, right? Like, does Adley Rutschman get back to being Adley Rutschman instead of the guy that we saw in the second half of last season who was, lost offensively? And does Jackson Holliday take that next step to become the player we all thought he was going to be? If those two things happen, then I think there's every reason to have faith in what this team is capable of doing.
Absolutely. And I would also add to that, if you're able to get, quality innings from two guys that were signed this offseason, and Charlie Morton and Sugano, then there's obviously opportunity there.
Yeah.
So those guys' jobs become more important now that there may not be Grayson Rodriguez at the top of this rotation, and there's certainly not a Corbin Burns.
Can I ask before I let you go, the balls and the strikes, what have you thought of it? Just going around the spring training this year, what have the players thought of it? And do you have a sense for, now that we've tested it, what it might look like when it actually comes into fruition in the coming years?
Yeah, I'll say I like the strategy of it for sure. I'm glad it wasn't just an all-out, let's go to the ABS system, because I think it's important to, keep fans engaged, right? Like, they're going to like the aspect of looking at the replay. They're going to like the aspect of guys only being able to choose to use it at certain times and which times are going to be most important. I'm on the side of getting it right? Like, let's make sure we just get it right. There's too much technology now to where we can't get these things right, especially in sports. I understand the concern of taking away the human aspect of things, but I think you still have an element of that as long as it's, you get a couple of challenges. And I like that you test it out before it's actually in play, because it won't be in play this season at the major league level.
By the way, I just watched your video about this new kick change. I'm losing my mind watching this right now. Like, what is this pitch, dude? What is this? This is
absolutely
insane.
Disgusting. It's disgusting. Guys are training hard to learn what it is and how to implement it. And I had to go and dive and do my own research because as a former hitter, I'm like, I don't want any part of this. But is this something that you can actually hit? I don't even know.
Oh, my God. Go watch this video, Xavier_Scruggs right now. It's blowing my mind watching this pitch. Xavier, I know you're a busy man. I know you've been doing all sorts of stuff. What can we plug for you, dude?
I think the biggest thing is Apple Friday Night Baseball. I know it takes away a little bit from the regional TV aspect of things, but when your team, and even if it's not your team, is on Friday playing on Apple, I'm doing the pregame show.
Cool.
I'm breaking things down for everybody watching. And it's really something I like to do, especially telestrating on the iPad guys' swings and their pitch deliveries.
That's awesome, man. Data is great. So we'll be checking you out all season long on Friday nights on Apple. Xavier, really appreciate you hopping on with us this morning, man. Thanks for doing this, and look forward to talking to you again real soon.
Yes, sir. Thank you, guys. Have a good one.
Xavier Scruggs, former big leaguer, and now with MLB Network Radio. You just mentioned Apple, among other places. I had never seen this. I was just wandered over to make sure I knew what his Twitter account was so we could plug it. And this was the first thing that I saw. It's called the death pitch.
So
it's
he
a
uses
kick change. Yeah, it involves using the middle finger for a spike. Apparently Clay Holmes.
I wrote down a baseball in here.
You know, it was so my
I have one in my car. Should I go get it?
Yeah,
quick?
no, it's very important. You're going to be the guy that's going to be throwing.
Well,
the
I
death
just
change.
learned. I just like finally got my circle change down.
Oh,
so, yeah. So
what does it look like? Show me.
Mine, it's like I use these two fingers.
Okay.
The pinky's just kind of there, and then but yeah, it's like that. And these it comes off of my ring and my middle finger.
Can I tell you that the thing that I struggle with the most, because I was never a pitcher.
Yeah, I barely am.
I never pitched. As a baseball broadcaster,
I still can't throw a curveball.
I struggle the most with identifying pitches. right? Like as a broadcaster. You can obviously tell like changeup versus fastball.
Right.
Like that's not very difficult to tell, and you can see sort of the arm slot for a slider sometimes. But like when I call baseball, and the other part of it is I don't do much of it, right? Like the schools that I work for primarily are Loyola and Stevenson. Stevenson has a baseball team, but we don't do baseball broadcasts. And I haven't done minor leagues in years. So I just don't do a ton of I used to do the Cal Ripken stuff when that was going on in Aberdeen. I did the Ironbirds briefly for a minute. But identifying pitches is always difficult because I never did it. I just never did it. And I'm like, God, I would have to really spend time like studying. And if I was ever going to get into like full-time baseball broadcasting, it would be the biggest issue that I would have in making that jump. But my older son, is back working with our friend Steve Johnson. Went back last night.
It's basically a lesson for you as well.
Well, that's like when he gets home, I'm fascinated by what he's learned. Cause I've gone with him before. It was actually fun last night. My younger son, I could sense, was jealous. My younger son, and it's tough, right? Because I want my younger son to also get better at playing baseball, but Steve's program is really not for kids his age. It's really not actually even for kids my older son's age, but he's close enough that like Steve's working
Steve
with
does
him.
pitch. He does pitching.
Well, but he does a lot.
Okay.
Like he has like a whole program. It doesn't just do pitching. Like one of the things that's great what Steve does is he works on like throwing the ball even when you're not pitching. So like how to load up and throw the ball appropriately, which is something that like my kids, they're still dealing with the like just use your arm and throw the ball. Whereas, he's teaching them how to shift, how to get in the load position, and then use your whole body to throw like across the diamond. Because as you would imagine, kids at their age, like you go over, play shortstop, play third base. If the ball just gets hit there, for the most part, they're getting on base.
Right.
Because these kids are just not. So that's something that they need to learn. But Graham wants to pitch, and so he also likes the idea of working with Steve on pitching. So it's fascinating because I do get to learn things. Like last night, my younger son was jealous, so he and I went out and played catch for an hour.
Nice.
Last night.
It was a nice day out.
Nothing better than playing catch with your boy. Nothing better. Although the younger son starts getting frustrated a little bit, and then like if he doesn't catch a ball, then he wants grounders for a little while. Like it's a whole thing. But there's nothing better in the world. Really, there's nothing better than playing catch. Like let's just be honest about that. Like I have said for some time that the only joy that boys, the greatest joy that boys will ever have, the only things that you'll ever need to feel joy in your life are a Frisbee, a Nerf football, and a wiffle ball bat and ball. That's it. That's a list of things that if you give me those three things and put me on an island with
desert island, yeah.
with other boys.
Lord of the Flies?
Yeah, that type of situation. If they had those things,
it would have been there would have been no book.
100%. They would have just had the time of their lives.
They would have started a new civilization.
I've said this a million times. Like I always, whenever we go to the beach, I got to have those three things because I know if I have those three things, my boys are going to be fine. They're never going to complain. Even I hate the beach, and I'll get through it. Like I'll survive a week at the beach if we just have a Nerf football, a Frisbee, a wiffle ball bat and ball. Those are the list of things that we need. But the same thing goes for just playing catch. Like there's never been a time where somebody said, "Hey, I got a glove and a ball. Do you want to go have a catch?" I don't know where that phrase came from. It was never something that I said as a kid.
It's always play catch, yeah.
Yeah, it's play catch. You want to go play catch? Yes.
Go play catch.
Doesn't matter how you're dressed.
Yeah.
You could be in. I have played catch at funerals. This is a thing that's occurred. Or like the day you have a viewing, and like there's one viewing in the afternoon and another viewing at night, and you have that time in between. You're in a suit, but somebody's got a Frisbee in their car. You're like, we're gonna go throw Frisbees. You want to go play catch? Yeah. You got a glove and a ball? Yep. We're gonna go play catch. And no one has ever had a bad time. You got a Nerf football? You're fine. You're fine.
Yeah. When we go to the beach, all we need is the little wave skipper. If we got the wave skipper, then like the little ball that bounces off the waves.
What is that ball? I don't know what that ball is.
Ours is it's like a little squishy ball. We have both.
Yeah.
But,
I would rather throw like a rubber football in the.
in
the ocean.
If it's round, it works.
Because then if you get a group of people, then you can sort of like do the bit where you throw it up and they're all fighting for it.
Do the Top Gun Maverick.
Yeah,
scene
kind of like that. kind of like
dogfight
that.
football, whatever.
100%. That's the way that it goes. I don't know why. My son, then he came home from Steve, and he was like teaching me about what he learned from Steve, and I was like, oh, I could learn that. Like, I get secondhand knowledge. I need to get a Wednesday off so I can go up there with him and just learn. That would be great. So please cancel my games.
I think I've gotten decent. I think I'm okay at like reading pitches. I don't know. I guess it probably helps that I still like play baseball, and that
it definitely probably helps.
And
definitely,
it probably
what is that?
Yeah. And it probably helps that like at the level I play at, I'm not watching 90 miles per hour every time, so I can. It's much easier to read, read 70 to 80 mile per hour pitches, see them break, see the run on a type of pitch. So I think I'd like to think I can.
I need to spend some time.
Read pitches a little okay.
I need to spend some time with it. All right, let's take a break.
Okay.
And when we come back in, we'll talk to Geroy Simon, Maryland football legend, and he's back in a very interesting role that I'm looking forward to him telling us all about. CountySports.zone is where you find everything you need to know. I believe it all gets underway tonight, championship week down in College Park. So you can find out more. Public high school hoops championships on the line this week. Find out all about it, scores, schedules, how they got here, what happens. CountySports.zone, proudly sponsored by your local Toyota dealer, buyatoyota.com. It is a Thursday edition of Glenn Clark Radio.
March is a slam dunk at Live Casino. Catch all the basketball action and more at Sports and Social. Enter our $80,000 Dolce & Gabbana giveaway on March 28th. And catch the Baltimore baseball jersey giveaway March 31st. Take your shot at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland. At Arundel Mills, must be 21. Please play responsibly. For help, visit mdgamblinghelp.org or call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Driving in Maryland? Did you know an easy pass from driveeasymd.com can save you time and money? Of course you did, because you are a thrifty driver. An antenna reads your Easy Pass transponder and automatically deducts the toll from your Easy Pass account. Learn more at driveeasymd.com.
Treat yourself and taste the Baltimore tradition that is the legendary Costas Inn. Hey, it's Stan the Fan Charles. For over 50 years, the Costas Inn has been a Baltimore original, dishing out their amazingly scrumptious, fat, award-winning crab cakes and steamed crabs. Every season is crab season at Costas, so make your plans now by calling 410-477-1975 and reserve your taste of heaven. Sit back, crack some crabs, and watch the Ravens chase down another title on Costas' 15 TVs. On Monday nights, Costas offers their half-pound jumbo lump crab cake with 2 sides for under $30, and there are nightly specials Monday through Friday. So head on down to the Costas Inn at 4100 North Point Boulevard or visit them at costasinn.com.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
COVID-19 and flu viruses are circulating in Maryland. But don't worry, protection is within arm's reach. Protect your health with this year's COVID-19 and flu shots. It's safe and convenient to get them both at the same time. Flex your protection. For more information, visit health.maryland.gov/vaccines.
This message paid for by the Maryland Department of Health.
Coming back in here with Glenn and the other guy, Garrett, whatever his name is. You know who they are.
Back in here on GCR as we continue along on a Thursday edition of the show. Griffin will tell us more about what happened in the world of the fights over the past weekend when we did into fighting words before we get out of here today. But we had to do this a little bit earlier on because of his schedule. I've been wanting to catch up in part because I just want to learn more about this. A lot of times we have these conversations and I sometimes know the answers before I ask the questions. I genuinely have had a lot of questions that I wanted answers to. Geroy Simon, who is back at the University of Maryland in a new role, took the time to answer those for us right here on GCR. I've really been looking forward to having this conversation here on GCR. I'm not trying to age him, but growing up, he was one of my absolute favorite players to watch. He not only was an outstanding, one of the greatest receivers in Maryland history, then became a great pro receiver, obviously a legendary career in the CFL, but he has returned to the University of Maryland in the title of Executive Director of Revenue Share Management and General Manager. I'm looking forward to finding out more about the new job for the great Geroy Simon, who is with us now here on GCR. Geroy, it's Glenn in Baltimore. It's so great to catch up with you, man. Thank you for taking the time for us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Geroy,
it's been great. It's been great to be back.
I can only imagine what that means to you. I hope you're not like, when I say that I was a kid when I was watching, I hope that doesn't like sting. I hope that it's all right.
No, it's all good. It's all good. I understand where I'm in life, and there's a lot of people that watched me a long time ago, and I'm thankful for everyone that did.
Dude, before we get into the job itself, what you just mentioned just about being back at Maryland, can you describe what it's meant to you to be back in a significant role, a very significant role, but to really be home?
Yeah, it means a lot. This is a place where I essentially spread my wings and learned the business of athletics, and really got a taste of playing on a big stage and seeing the world for how big it is. To when I left here, I wasn't sure of quite what was going to happen. I bounced around the NFL. I moved to Canada and spent a significant amount of time there. But it's funny, I had a great career out there, but all the years that I was on the West Coast, I was always looking back to the East Coast to have an opportunity to come back. And when this opportunity came, I jumped at it, without hesitation, just because, again, this is a place that I feel is essentially my second home, a place that I have fond memories of, and a place that I love. So having the opportunity to help Maryland athletics and the University of Maryland, in having a small part in helping build the athletics programs is something that's really important to me.
Can I ask this question just because it's been so long since I chatted with you? I'm not sure I remember. What was the story originally and how you ended up at Maryland from a part of the world where I feel like a lot of people would have ended up at Penn State? What was the story originally and why it was Maryland for you?
Well, Maryland was one of the first schools that really recruited me. One of the first major schools that recruited me, and it was really intriguing for me because one, they ran a run and shoot at that time, and that's the offense that I played in high school, and then it's the #1 school in the country for criminal justice, which if I wasn't going to be a professional athlete, I wanted to go into law enforcement or the Secret Service. And then the weather was perfect, so it
nice beautiful days on the beach. Right.
Well, it's better than the weather here is better than being in Pennsylvania where it's snowing and cold all the time. You only have to wear a winter coat for about 2 months out of the year as opposed to 6 months in Pennsylvania, and it's only a 3-hour drive. So it was a perfect setting for me. When I got on campus, I fell in love with campus and knew that this is the place that I wanted to be at.
Of course, under the great Mark Duffner, that run and shoot offense. Geroy, I have no doubt that this is the question that you've gotten most since you've taken this job. So I'll just be the next one to ask it to you. What is this job? Because I think everybody starts to have a little bit of an understanding of this new era of college athletics, but it's maybe more complicated than when someone says they're the general manager of the football team. This feels like it's a lot bigger than just that. Can you draw into us and maybe are there still elements of this job that you're figuring out as you go?
Yeah, so I just had a meeting with women's basketball, and that's a part of the athletics that I being an athlete, you understand basketball, but when you have to get down into the nitty gritty of the analytics of basketball and things like that. That's where you have to rely on people on your staff and people that work in that world to help you. So essentially, my job is director of revenue share, revenue share management, and that's revenue share is going to kick in July 1st, where essentially a portion of the university's revenue that we bring in will be sharing with college our athletes here, and essentially I'll be negotiating contracts, and then managing salary caps for each sport, whether football, basketball, women's basketball, and then the Olympic sports. So essentially, I'm in charge of the money and making sure that the dollars are spent efficiently and in the proper way.
He's Geroy Simon. He's with us here on GCR. Geroy, are you also involved? I know, like, the role of a general manager, the role that you had, you're also, of course, identifying that talent. Are you involved with that part of it, or is it more the coaches come to you, these are the athletes that we're interested in, can you now work on making that happen? What's the line between those two things?
Yeah, so I work closely with the head coaches and directors of player personnel on each sport, and just being a football guy, I'll gravitate to more of the player personnel and that side of it. But I'm not going to go and tell Kevin, Coach Willard, that, hey, there's a point guard I saw, you should sign him, or you should look at him and we should sign him. It's more of them explaining to me what they want in a player and how they want to build their roster, and then they identify that player, and then I help execute the contract and getting them to Maryland. So with the basketball side of it, it's more them telling me what they want, and then same thing with Coach Loxley on the football side. But with me being a former general manager in the professional ranks, I have experience in building a roster.
Sure.
So, Coach Locks, he trusts me to give input and have somewhat of an opinion on a player and their values.
I feel like that's been a bigger topic in this era of college athletics. Like it was difficult enough to try to be a head coach. Yeah. Now when you add on this, does there need to be like a full-on, I don't want to say separation because the coaches still are going to want their players, but does it require for these levels there being additional help in terms of scouting and identifying and roster building beyond just the negotiation of contracts?
Yeah, so I think the way that college athletics is going, it's going to mimic more of a pro model.
Yeah.
Where the head coaches will be involved. Sometimes the coordinators will be involved, but you have a full-on personnel staff that identifies talent, recruits the talent, and then the coach makes the final decision on who's a take and who's not a take, and then who you're going to keep on the roster, and who you're going to move on from. But I think it's such a big job now that some of those responsibilities have to be delegated to members of your staff. If you don't have that, you have to build that out.
Sure, I don't know if this is. I know the number in the agreement and the House and the settlement was 20 up. I think it was up to $20 million. Is that correct?
20.5.
$20.5 million. Is that is that across the is Maryland at that number? Does each school have the choice of how far they go on that number? What does that actually look like tangibly?
So once the House settlement is decided in April, the specific number will be defined.
Okay.
But we're thinking it's $20.5 million, and we're, as the university, we're opting in to share that with our athletes. But yeah, and then you divide it based on the division will be divided based on your school and what your thoughts are for each sport.
And I guess is it going to be a hard, and not even that you would even know what the number would be. Would it be a hard number per sport, or would that be a we can move that around based on what maybe the athlete was that you were looking for each sport? What does that kind of look like?
I think I think the thought is that there's going to be a hard cap.
Okay.
Overall, but I think once you declare what your number is per sport, I think you're going to have to stick to that, and that's how I'm operating.
Okay.
Is once we decide what the number is for each specific sport, that's the number we're sticking to, and we're gonna essentially treat that as a hard cap.
Does this allow for Maryland to be more? I know you can't talk about specific recruits. I understand that. Does it allow for Maryland to be more competitive, particularly in a football standpoint, right? For maybe athletes that in the past wouldn't have considered Maryland because there won't be a significant gap that like Maryland presumably can offer exactly as much as anybody else could offer around the country.
Yeah, the thinking is, in the past, teams had an exorbitant amount of money that they can just spread around and you just can't compete at different schools. But now this brings the floor up, and then, your ceiling might not be as high, but the gap isn't as big as it has been in the past. So yes, I think this will level out the playing field as far as what you're able to offer each student athlete, but then it just keeps things kind of in order where you don't have as much of a competitive advantage as when it comes to dollars and cents.
We're chatting with Geroy Simon, who's back at the University of Maryland here on GCR. Geroy, I think to that point, like NIL doesn't go away. Like this is in addition, as you talk about what other schools would have. Like they still can offer NIL money on top of the revenue share, correct?
Yeah, but the NIL will be scrutinized through a third party.
Okay.
So there's going to be even rules and regulations based on that, based on what a player's value actually is, as opposed to giving a backup quarterback $1 million. There'll be scrutiny placed on that.
You are probably the perfect person to ask this question to, because I'm sure you've heard all of the belly aching for the last few years of the people that have said, "Oh, this is ruining college athletics," and that chuckle is exactly what I knew I would get. And it's obviously different. We all know that, right? Like we're very aware. And there are fewer stories of 4-year guys, and for those of us that are of a certain age, that's a bummer. Although this Juju Reese has been an amazing story for Maryland this year. But when you hear that, what is your response to someone who says this is ruining college athletics or this thing that I have loved?
I don't think it's ruining it at all. I think it's giving athletes the opportunity to make dollars that everybody thought they should be making in the past, as opposed to the brown paper bags that have been going on for hundreds of years and years.
No, you think there were people that were violating? I don't believe you, Geroy Simon. That wasn't happening.
This regulates that and gives the university an opportunity to share the revenues that the players help generate and give them an opportunity to make money along with being a student athlete. So I don't think this is ruining college athletics at all. I think this is enhancing it, because now a player doesn't have to try to run off to the next school because they were promised a certain amount of money. They can and that will always happen. Players will move just because they see dollar signs, but you'll get the true players and athletes that want to stay in school and not chase the professional ranks because they're making money and able to to set themselves up for the future.
I asked this though to ask, like, obviously one of the things you said is negotiating contracts, and I feel like people that's been the thought of, hey, what does that look like moving forward? Are there multi-year deals that limit like someone from transferring? What will these contracts look like, and can it be something that maybe helps keep players at one school for a certain amount of time moving forward?
I think with the transfer portal, you can always sign multi-year deals, and when you have a young player coming into your program, you expect them to stay for the foreseeable future and finish their careers at the university. But you also have to be realistic and know that players have the ability to move, and although you don't want it to happen, you should always plan accordingly. So yes, there will be multi-year deals, but that doesn't really matter because a player has the right to transfer.
Okay.
Especially in football, there's 2 transfer windows where they can go into the portal and move. So you're planning for them to stay, but you shouldn't be surprised if they hit the portal and move.
So that's interesting. 'Cause like some people would compare this to, say, like an NFL contract where, well, you've got a contract, you've got to play. These are really more like a series of one-year deals, essentially. These contracts that you're giving out.
Yeah.
Is there? Do you know if there's any thought to try to change that moving forward? Is to try to make them like true multi-year contracts at some point?
Well, again, I mean, you can sign a multi-year contract, but again, if they move, but in the end, this is a year-to-year thing right now, and that's just for me. That's how I'm going to operate, and that's essentially what I coming from the Canadian Football League. We did have multi-year deals, but then we also have one-year deals. So once you bring a player on campus and have them committed, you immediately start the process of re-recruiting them to retain their services.
Do you get the sense that this puts a greater emphasis, than, to your point, on the portal, that the deals maybe for the knowns become more significant than the deals for the unknowns? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does, but at the same time, you have to have knowledge and experience on both sides of it. So yes, you do want to live in that portal world because that gives you a little bit of certainty on a player. But in building the core of your team, you want to bring in some young talent and then develop that talent at the same time. So it's a mixed bag of each situation.
Before we let you go, is some of this like the excitement of it? Obviously, the Maryland part of it is a big deal for you, and I understand that. But in choosing to do this, you're an icon in Canadian football, right? Like your life could be good there for forever.
Yeah.
Is some of this the excitement of figuring this out and entering to this sort of like brand new world here in college athletics?
Well, yeah. The thing with me is I'm a risk taker. I'm a builder. I'm a guy who I'm willing to walk in the unknown and understand that the qualities that brought me to this point are going to be the same qualities that helped me to be successful. So this is a new world. And it's new, it's exciting, but there's a lot of unknowns. And for me, I want to be on the front end of that and help shape the direction of how we build this thing and how we operate as an institution. So coming back home, yes, it's great that it's Maryland, but it's also great that it's a new experience, and I have an opportunity to help build and shape the way we operate as a university.
And then I'll wrap with the really dumb guy question. You said July 1st is when everything goes into play, correct?
Yeah, that's when revenue share actually starts.
So and I know this is, you couldn't like today go try to approach, say, Derek Queen, right, and say, hey, do you really love the NBA? Because we're going to have this money to throw. Is that even an option, or are you not even allowed to talk to anybody until after July 1st?
Yeah, I mean, conversations happen. You have to be prepared.
Okay.
And you have to plan, and you have to have an understanding of what you're looking at in the next not only week but the next 6 months. So those conversations are happening for sure. And that's where I said, when you bring a guy on campus or a female on campus, you have to start, once they're committed, you have to start re-recruiting them and to make sure you know what's going to happen in the future.
But can Maryland compete with NBA money? Is that yeah, I mean, I know it's good money, but is it that good money that it can compete?
NBA money is in another stratosphere.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. Enjoy it while it's going on, and maybe go win a national championship in the process.
Exactly.
Is the way we feel. Geroy, this is really fascinating stuff, man. I'm so glad that it's you. It's so cool for everybody that cares and has cared about Maryland football for a long time that you're the one doing it. I would love to have more of these conversations if you'd be up for it as this goes along, as we learn more about how everything plays out. Really appreciate you taking the time for us this morning, man.
For sure, anytime. I thank you for having me on, and I look forward to more conversations.
That's Geroy Simon. I learned a lot. I admit that there are still things that I'm confused by. I know what he's saying, and I feel like there's an unspoken part of what he's saying. Like the most fascinating question to me is, at what point you're now negotiating on behalf of the school. This is no longer third party. This is you are a paid employee. Why couldn't it be that you negotiate with someone and say, we're going to offer you a 4-year deal? That's the deal. It's 4 years. 4 years. This is your contract. It pays you X amount of dollars, and you're a Maryland Terrapin. You don't get to just go say, I'd rather be a Michigan Wolverine. You have a contract. Somebody might say, can you start trading those? It gets to really kind of interesting worlds. But you have a contract. You have to honor that contract because you have a 4-year deal. And the unspoken part might be, well, we could do that, but then they just threaten to hold out, and we know that we have to treat them like 1-year deals. And ideally, at a place like Maryland, what you're hoping is nobody's trying to transfer up. You're hoping that what you're giving them is so good that there's not a better place to be than Maryland. But we've seen, I mentioned Michigan a second ago. Oh, God, why am I blanking on his name? Big guy.
Dickinson?
Kansas, yes, Hunter Dickinson. Thank you, Christ. Hunter Dickinson was at a big place, but wanted to go to a different big place. Why wouldn't a contract prevent that? And the answers might be that it's not good for the school to give away 4-year contracts, because the more likely scenario is you're going to end up on the wrong end, where you identify someone coming out of high school that looks like they could be a stud, and you give them a bunch of money, and then you're 2 years in, and Deshaun Harris-Smith would probably be a good example of this, right? And I'm not trying to pile on Deshaun Harris-Smith, but someone who coming out of high school we looked at and said that guy's going to be a stud, and you want to pay him a good amount of money to get him there. But then you get a year in, and he's not that guy, and now you're on the hook. Sure, he could choose to transfer. He could choose that he wants out. But if he's got a contract, he could also be Chris Davis and just say, I'll stay here. Who cares if I'm not getting the minutes that I thought I was going to get? I'll take your money. It's fine by me. So that might answer the question as to why we can complain about the portal era, and coaches will complain about having to constantly re-recruit their players. But they might also say, yeah, but we don't want to lose the option of dismissing someone either, and saying, we don't want to have you back. And if that's the trade-off is you got to re-recruit the players that you want, coaches probably would say, we'll deal with that. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see. I mean, this really is direct deals with the schools. And it'll be interesting to see how they enforce this scrutinized version of NIL that he's talking about. Like, what he's saying is that moving forward, NIL is no longer the money you're giving a player to come play for a school. NIL now has to be an actual deal where you're actually doing something with a third party. It's not, Tennessee saying, here's some NIL money just to show up. That money is the revenue sharing money. You give them the revenue sharing money. The NIL money on top of that, that money has to be, Ron White, the comedian, Ron White's Toyota paying you to be a spokesperson for them. Are they actually going to enforce that? We'll find out. My gut tells me no, just because I always assume that nothing will be enforced. But that's the concept. The concept is moving forward, NIL money has to actually be for something. The money to get someone to just show up and play basketball or play football, that comes from revenue share, not calling it NIL and it just be pay for play. It'd be interesting to see how it all plays out. I know there's been some reports about what Maryland intends to do, how they intend to divvy up the money. This $20 million or so. I think he said $20.5 million. And unsurprisingly, the bulk of it would go to football because it's a 100-person roster. So why we all would say, isn't basketball more important at Maryland? Well, yes. Football is always eternally a sport where you can make more revenue. But also just from a sheer size of roster standpoint, number of players that you have in basketball, at most, what are there going to be, 10, 12 guys that you'd be giving revenue share to? At most. It might really be more like 8 to 10. And then the rest of the roster is scholarship guys or non-scholarship guys. So I get why the bulk of it's going to go to football. And how much to say, like, lacrosse and soccer are two really important sports at Maryland. And they want baseball to be a sport that matters. They're doing stuff. They built the facility. Like, they're trying to get there. So how much do those programs get? The Title IX guidance that we thought had been put in by the Biden administration has kind of been ripped up. And even that, I think we knew when they said it. They were more like punting it to the next administration. So it looks like there's not going to be that. The Title IX will not factor into revenue sharing, which I'm sure won't cause any problems on campuses whatsoever. There won't be any internal administration fighting, and everything will be just fine. I have no doubt because of that.
Good. I'm glad you're confident.
But we'll see. We'll see how it all goes. Good stuff with Geroy Simon. Appreciate him taking the time for us. All right, it's Thursday, and that means it's time for us to do this.
It's Fighting Words with Griffin Bass.
A bit of a slow week, I guess, in the fight world. Obviously, we did have a UFC pay-per-view over the weekend, so we might as well start there. Unfortunately, Alex Pereira does end up losing his belt to Magomed Ankalaev, and that means we are in the.
You were wrong.
I was wrong. I was right about Justin Gaethje, though. Justin Gaethje got a nice win over Rafael Fiziev.
Were you right about the main event?
What'd you say?
Were you right about the main event?
I was not.
You see what you're doing is you're distracting from the topic at hand.
I was also wrong about the Dos Santos parlay.
Oh, boy.
The Dos Santos parlay did not hit. It was also a horrible. One of the Santos both Santoses should have lost. And no one cares. Both Santoses should have lost. The one that did, he robbed. It was an absolute robbery of a decision against Francis Fire Marshall. We go on. But Magomed Ankalaev does win a unanimous decision against Alex Pereira. It was kind of, I don't want to say everyone's worst nightmare here, because it was a very, it wasn't a complete snooze fest, but it was a slow moving fight, not like a ton of output from either guy, and that's kind of what you get with Magomed Ankalaev. He certainly has power he's capable of knocking guys out and has a little bit of a ground game. But this was, he kept, he did what nobody else has really been able to do outside the one time Izzy beat Pereira, and that was, keep him at range, not allow him to get close. He really didn't even. I mean, they didn't go to the ground at all, or they did it for a little bit, but he didn't like actually secure any takedowns. And yeah, he just kind of pointed him up the whole time and won enough rounds. He won enough rounds to win. And
sounds really boring.
It was
Yeah,
boring. And
sounds
so it'll
really
be interesting
super boring.
to see where we go from here now at light heavyweight. Whether Pereira wants to move up to heavyweight and get ready to start try to put together some sort of super fight with Tom Aspinall or John Jones or something like that. But
John Jones still a fighter?
Yeah, he's still a fighter.
You sure?
Yeah.
Why?
Sure. Why? What happened?
I just never know with John Jones.
Well, it's true. You never know. But he did fight. Whenever we're still within 6 months of the last time him fighting, I think that's
all right.
We can.
He can
still be.
It was in the fall.
It was November.
November. All right.
Yeah, it was mid-November.
All right.
So yeah, we're still with within eye shot of.
Does he plan to fight again or?
Who knows?
Right.
But
these are kind of the questions.
But since he definitively didn't say I'm not fighting again.
Oh, okay. All right.
Well, I feel like we can operate as if as if he's still in the conversation here.
But didn't he say he also was only doing mega fights? He didn't care about.
Probably something along those lines.
He was only doing like money, like.
Well, I mean, like he said, I'm not, or he hasn't. He's been very non-committal to fighting Tom Aspinall because that's the one all the UFC fans want to see because Tom Aspinall was the guy who I think he had to like defend the interim belt like twice, which is kind of BS. They should have just let him be champion, but they didn't want. I think because Dana knew that John didn't want to fight Aspinall. So they never like unified the belt.
But is that because of it's not a big enough fight, or is that because he's afraid he's going to lose?
I don't think John Jones is afraid of anything, but yeah,
Right.
I think it's a little bit of both. Where there's more risk to fighting Tom Aspinall than there was to fight a 40-year-old Stipe Miocic.
I get that.
Aspinall in his prime and just completely destroyed the Serbian guy. I already forget his name.
I'm not going to come up with
crazy. I guess it doesn't matter. I'd come up with it eventually, but it's not the topic at hand, I guess. But yeah, so who knows what's going to happen? Pereira maybe we'll have to come back and try to fight Magomed again.
Okay.
We'll see what happens at 205. But it does. This seems like there's the conversation's been like been about boring champions now because you have Bilal Muhammad at 170, who is also a guy that
there have been boring champions for years.
Yeah.
They're all boring.
Yeah. And this is the thing.
They're
good at fighting,
to be
and
fair,
they know. They've gamed the system. I don't. That's the wrong way to put it.
Silva
But
was boring and was a legitimate superstar.
Yeah,
was known beyond just the hardest of the hardcore MMA fans. These are now both boring and guys that don't have name.
Exactly.
This is the real danger for UFC. Boring isn't the end of the world. It sucks for the fans, but as I said,
Colby Covington's kind of. At least towards the end, he's kind of a boring fighter. Like he's a wrestle guy. He just jabs guys up. He doesn't really have crazy knockout power. But everyone knows Colby Covington because he's polarizing. And
everybody's broad. Like that, it's not everybody, more
but
people than just the hardest of the hardcore MMA.
He will draw in some eyes. Magomed Ankalaev does not do that at the moment. It sounded like immediately after the fight, Alex Pereira was very interested in. It felt like he still thought he won, which he did not win. So maybe that means they'll run it back, and I think getting a motivated Alex Pereira is a scary thing. But yeah, Magomed won. So that was a little disappointing for most MMA fans, just because we knew that if Magomed won, we knew how the fight was going to go, and yeah, that was what it was. It was 25 grueling minutes. And, new light heavyweight champion. Justin Gaethje, of course, always a banger. He did beat Rafael Fiziev, so that was fun. Mauricio Rufy, one of the Fighting Nerds guys. They threw on the glasses after the fight. He a spinning back kick to knock out Bobby Green.
Okay.
So that one was pretty crazy. It was overall a good card. Nothing. I guess. You had the spinning back kick there. Talked about my guy Carlos Leal shouting
what
out.
are the Fighting Nerds?
They are. It's like the gym. So you have like AKA or whatever, and like American kickboxing
Ground
and
control.
Yeah, sure, ground control.
Right.
If they were to have a UFC fighter, their corner would be ground control. So Fighting Nerds is Brazil, and they all have. I don't know. was it Kyle Bahalio maybe was like the first one to like kind of come up, and he's honestly not even like the most exciting of like the bunch, but they all just crazy highlight reel knockouts, which is like Gene Silva, the guy that's been arguing with Bryce Mitchell, and they're gonna fight next.
Sure, whatever you
month.
say. Get to the point.
But it's their team. It's their team. They're the Fighting Nerds,
But
and they wear
like
these
do a boy band
glasses.
bit.
Yeah, basically.
I
Yeah,
like
they wear
this.
these glasses.
This is
when Rogan comes out to interview him. They always or Bisping, whoever it is. They throw the glasses on the guy interviewing them, Cormier, whoever it is.
See, this is the first interesting thing you've told me in some time. You should spend more time.
I swear I've brought up Fighting Nerds.
If we're doing boy band stuff, then I'm all in it. I'm all in for a UFC
but it is
or a mixed martial arts
like
boy band.
They popped out of nowhere. Maybe people have been following even closer than me, but still, they didn't start popping up until like within the last 2 years, and none of them have lost since they got to the UFC. And I don't know, I don't have the official stats, but I feel like it's all near 100% finish rate with these guys as well,
good.
where like they're choking guys out, they're knocking guys out. They're Rufy on Saturday, spinning wheel kick to knock out Bobby Green. Like these are they're one to hit knockouts as well. Like Gene Silva 2 weeks ago.
I'm not going to pretend like you're going to get me to watch any of this, but this is the closest you've come in selling me on
The Fighting Nerds are their team of the year. I think I don't know if there are official, if UFC gives out official awards or something, but there was a like corner or team of the year. Fighting Nerds I should have been the 2024 one, and it seems like they've got guys at each 155, 170, 185 that are going to be knocking on the door of some title shots soon. So that was the UFC card. As Ankalaev, your new 205 champion. Card this weekend, unfortunately, I can't really say. It's not nearly as bad as the one that 2 weeks ago that I was saying. That was just. It's another Apex card, but you got Marvin Vettori. He's at least fought for a title against Izzy. Didn't look good against Izzy, but Marvin Vettori has fought Izzy and lost against Roman Deleeds, kind of on the come up. There's it's good fights on the card. There's not really anybody. Damon Blackshear is on the card. He has one of the 3 twister submissions in UFC history. So if you never know what's going to happen with Damon Blackshear on the main card. There's outside that Ryan Superman Spann. I'm not sure if that's he's been around for a while, but there's the guy that got bit. Remember there was the guy that bit that guy last year?
I do remember that.
The guy that got bit, he's fighting this weekend.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
That's his biggest accomplishment.
That's his claim to fame.
I hope they put that on it. Like when he's walking out to the octagon and they put like a thing on the screen. I hope it's what's his name?
Andre Lima.
Andre Lima.
Yes.
11-4. 5 knockouts.
He's actually 10-0.
Got bit. I hope that's what they put in this.
Well, as long as they show him walking out. Again, this is my the gripe I have. Whenever they don't show all the walkouts, which is the thing that I absolutely hate. But yeah, so that's this weekend. This card this weekend, and just not a whole lot going on in the boxing world. Let's see. I think Tank got removed from the pound for pound rankings.
Oh, it's worse.
King Callum Wash is fighting this weekend. If anybody is
Tank got in a little more trouble. Apparently, took a trip he wasn't allowed to take.
Oh boy!
And had to donate a lot of money to a food bank and something. I don't remember what the other part of it was.
Good, I guess.
Can't help himself.
There was a fight just in Naoya Inoue, the Japanese 125er boxer. He will be fighting in Vegas in May. The same day that I assume Canelo's gonna have a May 4th a Cinco de Mayo weekend fight.
Always does.
So it's that same night though. So that'll be same night as well. That Saturday, May 4th. But the Japanese guy Naoya Inoue, who's very good. He's undefeated. He will be fighting in America later this spring. So that's kind of exciting for top rank. That'll be a top rank card. So everyone should be able to watch that.
Well, if top rank still exists, if they haven't been taken over by the new whatever
that's true,
the
I
hell
guess,
this thing is.
Because top rank was that effective immediately if they're not on ESPN Plus anymore?
I don't know the details.
Maybe we won't be able to watch. But
good.
But
it's a healthy sport. Things are going well. Can you watch? Don't know. Maybe. But we got this big star. Good luck.
NCAA Wrestling Championships will be next weekend, so we got that to look forward to as well.
Yes, that's obviously where I will be spending all of my time next weekend, famously. This is the weekend of the year where
should they move those? Where should they move them to? Should they move it up to this weekend?
The problem is that this is where ESPN has the room. That really is the issue.
Right.
is that you can't move them until college basketball. Like ESPN has college basketball through this weekend. So you can't do them before now because ESPN would say, sorry, don't have space for it. Next weekend.
We talked about this last year, I guess. Should it be a midweek thing? Leading up to March Madness? Like you do it Monday through Wednesday?
Week because you don't want to go up against even the first 4.
Yeah.
And obviously once they expand the thing to 150 teams.
All 360 Division One teams.
Didn't the Onion do a bit once where it was like a 3,000 team bracket?
Somebody put together
It was like, here's like the Jewish community college.
Somebody put together a 1,000 team bracket with a college football, the college football playoff thing, and they're like, "This is what a 1,000 team would." You know, teams from Japan.
Yeah, the whole deal. Yeah, I just don't think there's another option, unfortunately.
Yeah,
look, people that are into wrestling find it, like they do. It's just that I don't know that there's a place that you can move it where you can get more mainstream attention. I just don't, unfortunately. No, I think it's what it is.
But yeah, so you got those to look forward to. Big Ten championships for this past weekend. Those are always exciting.
Yes.
Yeah. Luke Lillidahl, my guy, Lightning Luke Lillidahl, the 125s.
I can't believe he didn't fly out to Iowa for those. Can't believe that's not the case.
They were where were they? Were they at Rutgers this year? I forget where they were.
Can we please?
I want to make sure there's nothing. Yeah, there's nothing.
Okay, thank you. Very good. That's fighting words. Don't forget, I know, as you heard yesterday, Stan and Luke have had a tough week down in Sarasota, but they're still going to be giving you more coverage. Facebook.com/PressBoxSports. PressBoxOnline.com. All brought to you by 1-800-GAMBLER, as well as Easy Pass, Live Casino and Hotel, and the Costas Inn. I don't think we need a sponsor for it. Let's just go ahead and get a tidbit. What you got?
What do I got here? I wanted to let me just make sure I didn't miss anything college basketball wise yesterday. Yeah, I guess not. I guess there really wasn't any. So you were reading ahead a little bit yesterday, but yeah, we talked about DeAndre Hopkins. So that means now the Ravens have since 2013 when DeAndre Hopkins came into the NFL, they have the top 2 scrimmage yards guys.
Active leaders.
Yes.
Is what we call that.
Yes. Well, I made it since 2013, but yes, they are all active as well.
Fine.
So yeah, we've got
they are active, so they would have to be the leaders. Whatever.
We've got 1 and 2. Can you round out? Let's round out the top 10 here. So 8 more.
This is just in scrimmage yards since 2013. So these don't have to be active players.
But they are all active.
They all are active.
Yes, they all have
scrimmage yards
at least 11,000 scrimmage yards.
Christian
McCaffrey is about 150 yards short.
Cool story, bro.
He's a bum, actually, is what it is.
Yeah, right? So I feel like I'm going to end up guessing some of the same guys I guessed. Yes, Mike Evans.
Mike Evans, yes, is number 3. So Derrick Henry's number 1. DeAndre Hopkins is number 2. Derrick Henry, the only guy with over 13,000 scrimmage yards. Okay. Among active guys here.
How about Tyreek Hill?
Tyreek Hill is 5th. 11,900 yards for Tyreek Hill.
Alvin Kamara
is in the top 10. He is 9th.
So I need to get 8 guys total.
Yes.
About Stephon Diggs.
Stephon Diggs is also just outside. He is 12th behind Christian McCaffrey.
Travis Kelce
is 4th between Mike Evans and Tyreek Hill.
I don't think he has a home yet. Keenan Allen?
Yep, Keenan Allen is 10th on the list.
Is he signed somewhere? Is he?
I don't think so. Do we want him?
No, they did that. They did the thing they were going to do in that department. I mean, I would have been interested for what it's worth, but they did their thing.
Oh, Chargers fans are writing. They want Keenan Allen.
Okay, well, they got Mike Williams back, so they just want to get the whole band back together. How about Zeke?
How did I miss Mike? Oh, Mike, was that this morning?
It might have been.
Okay.
At the same time, I missed Leonard. There's been so many signings this week.
Know.
Next week, we're going to have to do the game of who does this guy play for now? Because there's just been so much happening that I don't know. Zeke?
Zeke is on the list. Okay. Zeke is 6th behind Tyreek Hill.
So I need 2 more?
Yes. Yep, 2 more. Most scrimmage yards.
Devontae Adams.
Yes, Devontae Adams is 7th. He is behind Zeke, Just ahead of this other guy.
Just ahead of this other guy.
You know what did I say? I guess he technically hasn't retired, so maybe they do consider him still active. But I did make the list since 2013, so this guy I don't think has a team.
Don't think has a team.
I mean,
well, a lot of guys don't have teams
he
right
is,
now.
He does not have a team.
But he played last year.
I'm trying to see if he was on a roster last year. No, he was not on a roster last year.
So he's not active.
That would be yes.
So you lied.
No, I said
No, you
because
lied.
I said from the start we're doing guys since 2013,
understand
and
that.
then I quickly glanced over it and I was like, oh, they're all active.
So you lied.
Well, he didn't retire. He's not
It doesn't matter.
retired.
Is he active?
He's not retired.
Is he active?
He wants to actively play football. Yeah.
Is he active?
He actively wants to play football.
That's a different conversation. Is he an active NFL player?
I mean,
Just say
when you
you
look him up
lied.
on Wikipedia,
Wait,
it
what
says
is
he
it?
is an American football player who
So
is
is O.J.
not
Simpson.
retired. No,
He was
O.J.
an American
Simpson's-
football player.
He's deceased.
I understand that, but he played American football and is American who played American football. So this guy's not active.
He's not. No, he hasn't played since 2013.
God.
But he's not retired.
Doesn't matter. He's not active.
And the list is most scrimmage yards since 2013.
I understand that, but then you told me they were all active.
Yeah, because I glanced over
This
it too quick.
list is an
and you kept
abomination.
saying
You are at fault.
and you kept saying they're all active, and I was like, yeah, they're all
No,
active.
I didn't keep saying they're all active.
You did keep. You said it.
No,
multiple
I
times.
said it once, and you said, yeah, they're all active.
Who is it? Since 2013.
2013.
Yeah, because that's when DeAndre Hopkins came
Didn't
in the
play
league.
last year. Is no longer active. Didn't play last year. Dez Bryant.
Not Dez Bryant.
Le'Veon Bell.
Not Lev Bell.
I'm just thinking of guys that played for the Ravens at this point. Yeah, that was a weird story about Le'Veon Bell this week. I don't know what to make of that.
If you're curious, he's 17th on the list.
I was not. This is Odell Beckham. Oh, he played last year. Never mind. Also, speaking of weird stories, a lot of weird this week, man. Julio Jones.
Julio Jones, yes, is 8th on the list. Over 11,000 yards since 2013, and not retired. So
not active.
He actively is trying to play football.
Not an active player.
Active. He is active.
Hit the button. I can't with you.
Have you ever thought of taking a cruise to these wonderful destinations with sunny skies and beautiful beaches? Well, wait no longer. We're ready for you to cruise from the Cruise Maryland Terminal.
Have a little phrase that you can go from baggage to margarita in about 15 minutes.
Choose fun with an array of destinations, onboard activities, entertainment, and world-class cuisine.
Contact your travel agent and book your cruise today. Let your adventure begin.
This is what happens. It's not just Griffin. There's an entire generation of human beings. Just yesterday I said, when I'm wrong, I just say I'm wrong. I screwed things up. Lots. I didn't know Leonard Floyd. I was wrong. It happens.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, you were
When
just
you're
wrong.
wrong,
You were wrong about that one.
Just say you're wrong.
Well, he's not. I mean, he's not retired.
No,
How am I
he's
supposed
not
to?
active. That's a different thing. You could say he hasn't officially formalized his retirement paperwork, but you can't say he's active. He's not. And you
He's
don't need
not
to try to
retired,
gaslight
though.
your way out of it. You didn't say.
What do you call Brandon Graham?
I
right
didn't
now?
ask, is he retired? That's not the question that I asked. You said they're all active. If someone didn't play in the last season, they're not active. There's no debate about that.
Is it though? I mean,
yes, there is
if he's
no
an
debate.
active player.
No.
Is JJ McCarthy an active player? Like
actively on a roster, yes.
He didn't play last year.
It doesn't matter. He was on a team. That's active.
This guy
is
wants to be on a
not.
team, though.
Doesn't matter. Actually, why would you think that? What gives you that idea?
Because he hasn't retired yet.
I don't know. Just a lot of guys haven't formalized a lot of guys never formalize their paperwork. Actually, they just
Michael Pierce did.
Move on. Yeah, I'm bummed about that still. Just say you're wrong. It's
I don't think I was
okay.
wrong though.
We're not going to hang you from the gallows.
I mean, I made a slight mistake. Yeah, because I was glancing over the list too quick.
You were wrong. It's you know how. Let me tell you all the ways it's going to change your life when you acknowledge that you're wrong. No ways.
Exactly. So why
it's
why
just going to stop pissing off the person that you're having a conversation with.
You don't look that mad.
God can't just say, hey, man, made a mistake. I'm sorry. Then move on.
If I make a mistake, I'll admit it, sure.
And you did.
He's an active player. He wants to play football.
He's not an active player.
If somebody were to call him
You have
and
no
say,
idea.
hey, you want to catch footballs
You
for
have
us?
no clue.
I bet he would.
You have no idea. Don't have a half a clue if that's true or not. You're just saying stuff instead of saying, I was wrong.
He'll be a Steeler this year. You watch.
Christ.
He's a Steeler. I guarantee it.
And he's got Mason Rudolph. I can imagine why he'd want to be there. ESPN Plus, MEAC tournament tonight. Morgan State and Howard, 6 o'clock. The AA MAC tournament. Mount St. Mary's and Marist.
I forgot we had morning action. Darn it.
Big Ten Network
Join in
Plus.
progress.
Maryland, Penn State, women's lacrosse at 1. MLB TV, there's Toronto video and audio broadcast for Orioles Blue Jays at 107. Cade Povich and Easton Lucas. A lot of hoops all throughout the day, including Big Ten tournament. Indiana, Oregon up first. Northwestern, Wisconsin. Iowa, Illinois at 6:30. The winner of that one gets Maryland tomorrow, and USC, Purdue tonight. All that on Big Ten Network. All of the rest of the college basketball, find at glennclarkradio.com. It's a boatload. Monumental tonight for Wizards Pistons at 7. TNT and True TV, Lakers Bucks 7:30. Kings Warriors at 10. Monumental 2, Caps Kings at 10:30. ESPN Plus and Hulu for Oilers Devils at 7:30. Tennis Channel has Indian Wells. They're getting in the nitty-gritty there, down to the quarterfinals, 2 o'clock. Golf Channel, Players Championship, round 1 at 1. MLB Network, Braves Phillies at 1. Spring breakout games start with Red Sox Rays at 7. Axis for TNA Impact tonight at 8. Non-sports.
It's the season finales of Animal Control and Going Dutch is on Fox. Season 3.
About that. I like that show.
Season 3 finale of Animal Control. Season 1 finale of Going Dutch. But it's all right, though, because over on Bravo, Season 22 premiere of Top Chef. Yeah, everybody's in for that one.
Top Chef.
Practical Jokers, we got that. A new episode of Reacher, of course. It is the trying to think of any of these. What are these? The Parenting that we talked about on HBO Max.
Oh, that's today?
Yes,
I will watch
today.
it. Not today, but I'll watch it at some point.
That's the
no matter how bad people tell me it is.
Brian Cox, Dean Norris,
Yes.
Kidro,
Brian
Edie
Cox's
Falco.
penis. Yes, the whole thing.
And his penis. He got
Got
he's
his
on
own
the marquee.
trailer.
Yeah. Control Freak. This is on Hulu. I'm trying to say this is a show. I forget if this was any good or not. I had it highlighted that the motivational speaker is tormented by an unrelenting itch on the back of her head. So I guess it's supposed to be like a little kind of freaky, I guess. I don't know.
Sure.
It's Kelly Marie Tran. She was Rose in The Last Jedi. This was episode 8 of Star Wars. And Star Wars fans were very mean to her because they didn't like her character.
Oh.
And so she kind of disappeared for a little bit, and now she's back. And people say this movie should be good. So we'll see.
Okay.
Amanda Seyfried is a Philly cop in Long Bright River. This is a show on Peacock, and she's investigating some murders in her Philly neighborhood. And who knows? Who knows what's going to happen?
She can apparently play the dulcimer. She was on Joni Mitchell shared this clip. She went and sang a Joni Mitchell song on the Jimmy Fallon program and played the dulcimer.
All right.
It's a very strange, but I found that on it was fed to me on the algorithm. And I
Interesting.
said, how about that? And then I said, please never feed me another Jimmy Fallon clip ever again. And I'm terrified that because I watched that one, I'll now get fed more Jimmy Fallon clips.
Well, remember you did say that a couple weeks ago when you watched there was a Fallon clip that we were talking about. I forget what it was.
Was there?
Yeah, there was something. I forget
Oh,
what
the
it was.
Letterman thing.
Yeah,
the Letterman thing.
when Letterman popped. So yeah,
That might be how I
it's
ended
already
up with
it's
this
already
one.
it's already happening. You're a Fallon guy now. Congrats.
No, I'm not.
Congratulations. Speaking of Fallon, he is going to have your boy Nick Jonas. So I'm sure that one will pop up in your feed as well. Nick Jonas
Love
and Fallon.
Nick Jonas. Is he on a show or something?
He is on Broadway, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. And then Paul Rudd and Natasha Rothwell will be on Seth Meyers.
They are plugging Brian Cox's penis.
Really? They're
Yes.
just plugging it?
Yeah. You guys seen it?
It's crazy.
Yeah.
And Netflix will have, this show looks very interesting, adolescence. And so a 13-year-old is arrested for murdering his classmate. And it looks really it looks very intense and freaky. Like he's like.
Waiting for you to be like, and it's a murder musical.
No, not that. It looks like it looks pretty scary and it looks pretty like a thriller.
Okay. Right.
So that could be good. Oh, and then the Baltimore Cravens, Craven the Hunter is now streaming on Netflix as well.
Looking forward to that. Who is this group of people that John in Little Rock wants me to watch a video that the guy Dave Portnoy did with some food people that are from Baltimore or something.
Oh yeah, he was doing pizza reviews.
But no, it wasn't. That's not. It wasn't
reviews?
from there. It's some people from Baltimore or Maryland went to New York and did one with
John
him.
and Little. Did he tag me or?
I don't know. I don't think he's on Twitter anymore. I think it was on Blue Sky, maybe, or he texted it to me. Hang on a second. Maybe he texted it to me.
Portnoy,
Sorry,
Baltimore,
I've been busy,
everything that
busy
pops up is
fella
just.
these last couple of days, so I've been missing. Maryland Food Boys, he texted. Viral sensation, so great.
Oh, there was one more thing. Hold on. When the show comes out.
Dave is back in NYC for a day of pizza reviews with the hottest food reviewers on the internet, the MD Foodie Boys. MD Foodie Boys are Maryland people, just a couple of kids with a food podcast. I don't know anything about them.
Foodie. What was it? Foodie Awards?
Oh, are these the kids that they're like actual kids on the internet and they were like,
oh, they're doing the podcast.
And yeah,
they're like, people and jellies are good, man.
Yeah, it's got to be them, right? That's got to be
the
who it
Foodie
is.
Boys.
We made them.
This is a
famous,
legitimate show. Those kids are from Maryland.
I guess.
Interesting.
Where in Maryland? Maryland's a big place.
Who knows? What middle school do they go to?
They go from. Are they from McDonough? Or are they from Huntingtown? I don't know these guys. All right.
No, they're in New York. They were in New York, though.
In New York with him, yes. But where are the kids from?
Well, that's what MD Foodie Boys. All right, I'm on their TikTok. Oh, yeah, I guess they are from Maryland.
We've said all of that.
Do you like Uncrustables? I don't know. I don't know why we'd know where in Maryland they're from.
I do. I am aware.
They do have outdoor videos of them outside of McDonald's. You see if we can try to figure out.
I'm all right.
What shopping center this is.
Bored already. Just repeated back to me all the things that I said.
It kind of looks like Westminster.
Okay. Well, maybe they're from.
Well, I
Westminster.
can't tell. It looks like the Target in Westminster.
So just wander around, see if they're standing outside somewhere.
Well, they're in a car here, so I don't know.
Thanks today to Geroy Simon. Thanks to Jahmir Young, to Xavier Scruggs, and Steffi Samaras. We'll get all of it up in the greatest hits section of the.
Can you take me higher?
Tab at GlennClarkRadio.com. I have a headache.
Forgot what I was gonna do.
Tomorrow on the program, Dwayne Simpkins is going to join us. American
is that Nottingham?
basketball coach.
Wait a minute.
What?
That's Chick-fil-A in Nottingham. That's kind of where it looks like.
Oh, is it?
Or maybe is it Hunt Valley? I don't know.
Tomorrow. Why are we doing this?
Well, you asked where the Maryland Foodie Boys were from.
I was hoping you knew it. If you didn't know, then it's fine.
No, I can't. I don't like disappointing you. I can't say no.
Former Terp. Just don't gaslight me. That's all I'm asking for.
You want me to gaslight you?
No,
Okay,
I'm
sure.
just
No problem.
asking
No
for
problem.
What a thought. I just don't want to be gaslit. I got into a fight with Colson one day about something. I just said, dude, I don't care about this topic. What I care about is not being gaslit. Just don't tell me something's a fact that isn't a fact.
These videos are funny.
I don't care about the actual topic at hand. I only care about the gaslighting. That's it. Why? I'm going to lose Griffin for the rest of the day. He's going to be doing this.
Cookies and cream milkshake, pretty good from Chick-fil-A, according to these kids.
They haven't tried the Cinnamon Toast Crunch Hershey Kisses.
Or is that the Chick-fil-A in Towson?
Would you settle down? The one right there.
Not that one right there.
There's not another Chick-fil-A in
Well, there's
Towson.
the only one in Parkville, I guess.
Parkville, yes. That's not Towson.
Oh, it's close. It's just under the Beltway. Well, that's a loud video.
Stop it. I'm trying to end the show. Dwayne Simpkins joins us tomorrow. Former Terp. We'll talk about it going to the NCAA tournament.
Well, I got to know what he likes about the sour cream.
Doing a draft segment tomorrow,
Yeah,
right?
we are. Kyle Stackpole
will join us. And isn't there something else tomorrow?
Not confirmed yet, but
okay. All right, very good. Thanks to everybody at PressBox, all of our great sponsors and partners, including Live Casino and Hotel, Cruise Maryland, Crown Trophy, Easy Pass. Would you stop it? HelpMyGamblingProblem.org, Costa Sin, MSAA, Maryland Sports, your local Toyota dealer, buyatoyota.com. Thanks to Griffin, I think, at Griffin_Bass. Follow us, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Glenn
It's
Clark
Owings
Radio.
Mills. It's got to be.
Have a great. I used to have an order at the Chick-fil-A Owings Mills. If you went, when I was covering the Ravens, I would go there every day.
I don't think it's Owings Mills.
And I would get a regular sandwich on wheat and a spicy sandwich on wheat. And they got to know me so well that they just called it the Glen. And so if you drove to the Chick-fil-A in Owings Mills and
They had
ordered
wheat?
What's that? Yeah, they had. They might still. I don't know. I don't do sandwiches anymore. But imagine me thinking that was healthier. I was ordering 2 Chick-fil-A sandwiches, and I was like, yes, but they're healthy because they're on wheat.
That's a good idea, actually.
So stupid.
Trick the psyche.
Getting a Diet Coke. Like, it's just so stupid. I'll have one of everything and a Diet Coke. God. But yeah, you could just drive up.
Smart play.
You could, at one point, you could have just driven out. And I don't remember the names. It might have been Manny who worked there. He was a great guy. But if Manny was working and you said, hey, I want the Glen, you would get that order. That was what you would get. Man, that was the peak. It was all downhill from there, like Newfound Glory said.
Cut your own sandwich.
Nothing good ever came after that. All right, have a great Thursday evening. Go Morgan. Go Mount St. Mary's. Duke sucks.